Over the past 4 months, I've spent every waking moment reviewing Planet of the Apes as a series. This started as a fun little haha monkey march last year in 2024, but it quickly became something much bigger. The world of Planet of the Apes is so deep that I figured I needed to make a video for every single movie in the series. Now, little disclaimer, some of the first few are gonna look a little rough visually. I didn't quite have the green screen technology down pat yet. So if you want to skip to later movies where they look better on the green screen, there will be timestamps in the description for you to skip forward to wherever you want to see. Real quick side note, if you like this video and want to see more, leave a like, subscribe, comment, let me know that you like it. But with that, I give you my project, watching every single Planet of the Apes movie. Yeah, they made me the president. They said my aura was unmatched. Or some shit. Original Recipe OG Planet of the Apes is a technical marvel and truly pushed special effects and science fiction as a whole into a new era. It intertwines great makeup, which I want to tell you, I don't think they're real monkeys, okay? It's great makeup, but I know that they're people under there, I know it. Okay, so don't tell me that I'm an idiot. I know they're real people, and I'm not scared of them. With a bare bones but intelligent story about environmentalism and the human condition. I'm going to be saying the phrase the human condition a lot in this video, and I figured I should table set a little bit as to what it means when I say it in this context. I don't want anything to get confusing or, as it's going to, annoying. It's going to be annoying. The human condition is defined as the characteristics and key events of human life, including birth, death, learning, emotion, aspiration, reason, morality, conflict, and death. The definition is pretty straightforward. It's the condition that we're all born into. It's being a human and what it means to be human. This, again, will come up, so I wanted to mention it and explain it before we got into the video where I talk about it a lot in terms of a movie about apes, so... Yada yada yada, the human condition. Show me the monkeys. Show me the monkeys. Show me them in their little towns with their guns and all their weapons and their... Alright, so yeah, this movie starts off with a group of astronauts led by Charlton Heston, who plays Captain Taylor. They're flying through space, and as they approach where they're going to hit their hypersleep points, which is they get in the cryopods and they take a big old nap, the ship malfunctions and starts to crash. As they crash, Taylor sees the calendar of the Earth year so that they could track, in space, like how long they've been gone, and it says that they are thousands of years in the future. They made a mistake and in turn have lost everything and everyone they've ever loved. There is now no home to return to. After the ship crashes, this movie kind of grinds to a halt, and I don't say that negatively because I really like this part of the movie, but it definitely slows down a bit. Taylor is seemingly okay with what has happened to the crash and the thousands of years being flung in the future, and it has no home to return to, from what I can gather. The astronauts all get out in their stupid, weird little metal backpacks that can't be comfortable or fashionable. And the next 20 minutes, give or take, is them walking through scenic beauties that could only be on an alien planet. But it was filmed in Arizona, so I'm from New Jersey. I didn't know things looked like that. And I say it grinds to a halt in a good way because it really lets the dread sink in of you don't even really have an avenue to get to the way to get back home. They are stranded on a planet with nothing and no way to leave. Eventually, they find a group of humans and they see them in the distance, and as they go towards them, they end up going in a lake and take all their clothes off to swim in the lake and get a bath, and then the humans they found sneak in, take all their clothes and run, and so they chase the humans. So the humans are being chased by other humans. Taylor is chasing a group of humans. I'm sorry, this is really a fucking nightmare. But as they get to the field with all the humans, it's all of them. They're chasing them, so it's all of them. It's a big group of humans. You see, in maybe the greatest reveal in movies, an ape on a horse with a automatic rifle crest the hill and start hunting these humans. In watching all these movies, I figured I shouldn't be alone, and I should enlist the help of some of my friends to keep me along on this journey, because it's quite a long one. So I started inviting friends to watch these movies with me. I tell you all of this because my good friend Peyton actually ended up sticking out and watching every single movie with me. It took us about a month to get it all scheduled and done, but we watched them all together. It was very nice. But there was something about these movies that really entranced us every time we watched, and that's the monkey net. The apes end up using a net to capture humans in almost every single one of these movies, and the success rate is sitting around 100%. It's one of the greatest cinematic foils I've ever seen, and I feel like it's slept on, so I wanted to bring it up, and I wanted to have Peyton talk about it, so here's that.
Webster's dictionary defines consistency as key, and nothing is more consistent than monkey net. Planet of the Apes is a franchise spanning 10 movies, and in every single Apes movie, they find a way to use the monkey net, often more than once. I mean, hell, in the first movie, they just keep using it on Taylor each time he escapes. Guy's an astronaut, he can't even beat a piece of twine. The actual funny thing about the monkey net is by the second or third time they use it, you instantly understand how overpowered it is. If something seems like it's going a little too well for the main characters, then bam, you know they're about to get the old rope wrangle. Even when I saw the newest Apes movie in theaters, I cheered and I clapped with my little simian hands when I saw that monkey net. The monkey net quickly became one of my favorite characters of the Apes franchise, and that's right, I said character. I will not be taking any more questions at this time. Thank you, back to Billy.
The astronauts are taken to what we will call Ape City. Taylor is seemingly the only one to make it out alive, and he ends up being injured, shot through his throat, so he cannot speak. Dr. Zira, a female ape veterinarian, which is just a human doctor, which is kind of funny, takes care of all the humans that are brought in from the hunt. I don't really know what she does with them. They kind of experiment on them, but she's also doesn't want to experiment on them, so I don't really know. I think she just admires them and wants them to be a higher species. Humans in the Apes universe don't speak, by the way, so Taylor being shot through the throat eliminates any delineating factor of him between the other humans that have been hunted. Taylor tries to communicate but realizes he can't speak, and then he tries to write, and so they start making fun of him, saying he's emulating apes and how he acts. Taylor is pretty much in prison now. Taylor is discredited, but eventually he escapes, and he's running through Ape City being chased and put in another monkey net, by the way, never fails. And as they're netting him up to take him back to prison in the town square, he yells,
"Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!"
which is one of the most iconic lines in all of movies, and this is really a nexus point for the entire franchise. This sets us off into whatever else happens in these movies. This is the moment. Taylor has sent their society into a spiral, and they can't really bring it back because everyone in the town has seen it now. Ape City is in shambles. And now we get to spend time with one of my favorite characters, Dr. Zaius.
Dr. Zaius, Dr. Zaius!
Dr. Zaius is the head of the science division in Ape City, as well as the keeper of the faith, which I feel is a conflict of interest. Separate the church and the state, Dr. Zaius. No, you guys have guns. You missed a step. Zaius believes Taylor is from what they call the Forbidden Zone, which is where the apes do not travel. They don't explain why, really, that they don't travel there, but they just don't go there. They live in their city, and they stay there, and it's kind of cultish. The next 15 minutes of the movie are just Taylor in ape court, which fucking rocks. He's just, pleading his case as to why he should be alive, and then they have, a religious aspect and a science aspect, and it becomes like a courtroom drama for 15 minutes with apes and a dude. It's awesome. It really allows the Shakespearean theater actors of the 60s that are put in ape makeup to just chew on some lines about weird societal issues. Zaius and the council of other apes decide that Taylor should be banished to the Forbidden Zone, to where he comes from. And as Taylor's about to set off, I forgot, there's a really weird aspect of this movie where Linda Hamilton plays a hardly clothed human that can't speak, that is a lower evolutionary ladder rung, and she's given to Taylor, which is really weird. So she clings to his hip and just can't talk, and it feels really weird. Zira and Cornelius. Cornelius is Zira's husband, who is also a scientist, who's in a lot of the movie, but I think Zira really elevates those two to one character through her. But they go into the Forbidden Zone with Taylor and Nova, but they're chased by Zaius and the group of apes that believe he should be killed. Taylor ends up retreating to a cave with Zira and Cornelius, and Zaius follows them in there. Taylor finds a human doll that speaks, and Taylor and Cornelius realize, as well as probably Dr. Zaius, that there were humans that spoke before apes rose up. Zaius tells Taylor to leave the cave and to never return. Zaius is trying to preserve the sanctity of ape culture and ape society. Taylor and Nova go off on horseback until they find arguably one of the most important reveals in movie history. They look up and they see the Statue of Liberty pretty much buried in sand. Taylor curses them for blowing up the world. You realize that they have been on Earth the entire time, and that he's just thousands of years in the future, where apes are now intelligent. Original Recipe Planet of the Apes is an incredible movie that holds up still to this day really well. I think if I was to watch the first one of these movies and really hate it, I would not have made it through some of the lesser of this ilk. It tackles a lot of issues about humanity, revolutionized sci-fi, and became a long episode of The Twilight Zone that people were just enamored by. I love it. So excited for the next movie. A monkey! Okay, so I'm going to spoil my ranking a little bit. This is my favorite Planet of the Apes movie. This This movie is batshit absurd, and it blew my mind on my first watch. It's exactly the kind of like cheesy sci-fi shit that I like, and it also becomes like this weird commentary that I didn't expect them to do, and that commentary is part of a larger group of movies that I really enjoy that we'll talk about later. It's not very subtle, but this movie is about nukes and how it affected the mind sphere of the American people in 1970s. So, Beneath the Planet of the Apes is essentially a remake of the first movie for the first half of this movie, and then it becomes something entirely different. We have an astronaut, Brant, who is looking for Taylor. He has the same sort of origin story as Taylor, where he hits a wormhole, ends up on the Planet of the Apes, goes to Ape City, makes some friends, makes some enemies, oops, leaves. I don't want to blow through this movie though, so I'm going to hit a little bit of the key points that I know that are in the movie. Damn. That are in the movie. Taylor is shown with Nova after the events of the first movie with a horse, and they're laying out together, and he's trying to teach her how to say her name. He's trying to teach her how to say her name. Because she can't talk. Yes. Foolish. But after that scene, we were shown Taylor through some rough VFX, falling through a wall of fire in the Forbidden Zone. Nova is left behind and finds Brant and tries to communicate that Taylor is in trouble and needs his help. She can't speak, so she leads him to Zira and Cornelius in Ape City. This movie is inherently more political, that fleshes out a lot of the different sectors of the ape culture and how they act and what they do within the society. In this movie, we're introduced to General Ursus, who is a gorilla who is the leader of the army. There's a militant force that's the gorillas, there's a science division that's the orangutans, and then I don't know if they're chimps, I don't know what kind of ape they are, but then there's the other ones who are just kind of the regular people. They do whatever they need. So after Brent is taken to Ape City, we pretty much do the entirety of the first movie over again with Brent instead of Taylor. By the way, Brent looks exactly like Charlton Heston. They just picked the next guy that looked like the first guy. What? But that's okay. I'm gonna be very forgiving of this movie that a lot of people hate because I love it. Just gonna let you know that now. A lot of people's big criticism with this movie I've found is that it is incredibly on the nose. There's no subtlety to it. It's in your face and you know exactly what's going on throughout the movie, and what happens at the end, you get it. You don't really need to sit with it other than when seeing it. I think that it being on the nose is admirable for the time, because in the 70s I feel like a lot of people were using allegories to talk about nuclear war, and then there's things like Dr. Strangelove and this, which I think are inextricably intertwined in a very weird way. So after we do the original events of the first movie, where they go through Ape City, they get captured, they leave, they go back, they go forth, they're everywhere. They eventually get to the point from the first movie where they're cast out to the Forbidden Zone, and the apes are chasing them again. But this time, they're militant. They're ready to fight. They're going to war with whatever humans are in the Forbidden Zone. No! Not the human! I know that they assume there's an entire race of people living in the Forbidden Zone that they're gonna have to war with. But I think it's really funny to think that maybe one of them is and there's only 3 of them. Do we need 400 guys to go out here right now? I could probably stay home. As Brent and Nova are rushed through the Forbidden Zone, being chased by the apes, they're forced into a cavern and they have to go underground. Beneath. Whoa. They go deeper and deeper into this cave until they get to a point eventually where they're deep enough and they can look around, and there's things still on the walls, coated in beautiful sets, by the way. Whoever did these sets, incredible. Good shit. They get to a point where Brent can tell where they are. They are in the New York City subway station. This doesn't have the same punch as the Statue of Liberty, obviously, but I still think it's a great reveal. They do it well, and it looks great, and I feel like it kind of immerses you more in the world, and you get... It's a bit of a world-building sprinkle, you know? It gives it in there. I want my room to look like these sets. Living in a little cave, like a freak. As they travel deeper into the caves and the subway systems, they're noticing more artifacts of New York, and they start hearing a loud humming noise, which I'm gonna play because it's really annoying, and when you're watching the movie, genuinely gives you a sense of dread, in my opinion. It sucks, right? I get it. Eventually the hum grows so loud that it drives Brent insane, and he's unable to control himself. And he grabs Nova in a very frightening scene, and he's drowning her in a well. It's really weird. He breaks out of it and he looks through a door behind them, and he sees a man in a church worshiping a nuclear warhead plated with gold. It's so on the nose. It's awesome. This is where I was 100% locked in. You couldn't take me away from this movie if you tried. a futuristic society of humans like worshipping a nuclear warhead is so visceral in my opinion, and such great imagery that I was so lost. While this is all happening, we're gonna go back to Ape City because there's another whole plot going on with Zira and Cornelius trying to find their way with Zaius and General Ursus within Ape City. There's civil unrest in the city. Since Taylor, the military has become stronger and tried to accrue more power so that if anything comes through their gates again, they can exterminate it. The apes are trying to go into the Forbidden Zone, like I said, to stamp out any more humans that would eventually enter their city and threaten their way of life. And in Ape City, we are seeing full-on protests, like Vietnam level, like people in the streets stopping the military with signs, kids rising up, being smarter than the people above them and not fighting the war that they don't want to fight. Kind of crazy. It's just a nice little like world building piece that I like in the movie that doesn't really add much to the rest of the plot, but it's nice to know. Back with Brent now, he is taken to a hall with a bunch of these human mutants who end up being the council. They have different colored headpieces and they are all communicating to him through the humming that they have. So all the telepathic mutant abilities are shown, and that's how they communicate. Do you see what I'm saying? This shit kind of rocks. Like, it's mutant humans that are telepathic, worshipping a nuclear bomb while fighting monkeys with guns. That's movies, man. As Brent speaks to the mutants, the apes grow closer and closer and closer. Brent tells the humans that the apes are coming, and the humans decide to throw one last hoorah and call together a church service for the nuke one last time. Brent and Nova are thrown in a jail cell where they find Taylor, but we'll come back to that. The church scene is truly mind-blowing. All the humans are worshipping this nuke, and then at a certain point in the service, they all pull their faces off and reveal that they are wearing skin masks and that they are veiny, alien-like creatures underneath that are humans radiated by this nuke that they've been surrounding themselves around for eternities. Back to Brent, Taylor, and Nova. They all find each other. They're kind of palling up, trying to figure out how to get out, when one of the guards comes in and telepathically makes Brent and Taylor fight, which I feel like was a studio note. I don't know, it feels really weird and out of place and annoying, but they beat the shit out of each other for a while. Nova eventually stops them by yelling Taylor's name, and they escape. They get past the guard and they get to the church service, and they all are involved in a huge brawl with essentially three parties trying to figure out what is best. None of them listening to the other, just all-out war. The entire room stops as Taylor gets close to the button that sets off the nuclear device. Zaius tries to convince Taylor not to, but Taylor has decided that this world has had enough. With his final strength after being shot, he pushes the button. It all goes dark. He destroyed the entire planet of the apes! Where are we gonna go now that there's 7-8 more movies left and the entire planet of the apes has been destroyed? Weird. You ever heard of a cool thing called time travel? Ever heard of it? Yeah, the timelines for these movies are fucked, and they just go off in a billion different directions, and we will explain it when we get there. So when I mentioned that this movie is part of a larger movement in cinema, this is what I was talking about. Cold War cinema, or post-war cinema, consists of films that are made with the mindset of World War II is over, nukes have entered the playing field, and how does everyone feel about it? Spoilers, most filmmakers are pretty scared of them. Rightfully so. How are you supposed to go back to making entertainment when you know that your country won a war by decimating more people with one blast than ever had happened before? American filmmakers were shook to their core. This led to a movement in film that would specifically hone in on the aspects of American life that related with the idea that the world was now incredibly volatile and humans cannot be trusted with the magnitude of power that a nuclear bomb brings. I am very serious when I say that this Planet of the Apes movie and Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove are very intertwined narratively. Both of the filmmakers for these movies have a distinct outlook on the world and how the involving of a nuclear bomb could really muddy up that world. Overall, I feel like Cold War / post-war cinema is some of my favorite because it usually feels really ahead of its time, and it connects the fears of today with the fears of yesterday. But yeah, Beneath the Planet of the Apes is like metal as fuck, and I love it, and it's a perfect encapsulation of like Cold War cinema at the time, mixed with like blockbuster cinema of the time, and I think it's awesome. Like, imagine your movie ends with you just blowing up the fucking earth, and then there's a sequel a year later. Like, that's crazy. That's some 60s, 70s sci-fi, and I love it. Yeah, so next week I guess we have to... This one's about influencers, yeah! No, but genuinely, this is kind of like the most interesting one thematically, in my opinion, which is weird because I didn't really love it on the first watch, but after thinking about it more and more and more, I've grown to really like it, and I want to rewatch it again soon. Escape from the Planet of the Apes starts similarly to the rest of the franchise, with a spaceship crash landing, but this time the roles are reversed. There's no humans in that ship, it's 3 apes who have arrived on Earth in 1973. Who are the apes? Well, they're our friends, Zira, Cornelius, and a third guy that, like, we've never met before. His name is Dr. Milo. Don't worry about him. Doesn't matter much. He's brutally murdered about 3 minutes into the movie. Yeah, so the last movie ended in nuclear fallout that destroyed an entire planet, and this one is like a celebrity comedy based in 1970s America about apes who become celebrities. It's weird. It's truly a wild heel turn between movies. Zira and Cornelius explain that right before the bomb went off, they re-engineered Taylor's original ship to fly out into space, essentially, through the wormhole right before the bomb went off. It's a little shoddy, alright? Don't worry about it. They made it here. What did you want the movies to end? The two become celebrities and are like touted as such throughout the movie by everyone they encounter. They're in the news, they're on TV, they're in court. There's a whole thing about the production of this movie that like different executives wanted apes to be doing sillier things in these movies. So like, oh, what if an ape was in a bathtub? We should put that in the movie. Find a way to put that in the movie. So I guess they just jammed a bunch of them together and then strung it through with still like an interesting view of the world and humanity. It's really awesome. This movie, in my opinion, is an incredible and also very weird look at celebrity culture in the 1970s, and I think that it has only aged well, and I think that it has only become more relevant as time has gone on and the age of the internet has been upon us. Now we gotta talk about the annoying shit. Influencers are something that all of you are aware of, and I'm 100% positive about it. But I want to take a little bit of time to talk about it because I feel like it relates very interestingly to this movie. An influencer, at least in a modern sense, is someone that creates content and posts it on the internet for others to view and enjoy and be influenced by. We will come back to this later. I don't have much on it right now. We'll do a big whole section later. Monkey movie, yeah, back to the monkeys. The apes are thrown into this human life that they're really not prepared for, and they are not well equipped to understand the society that the humans have, or vice versa. They're not being understood by the humans either. They're given lavish treatment, which is a lot of like good to their face, bad behind their back sort of vibes. Damn, why did I say sort of vibes? My fault. They're given lavish treatment, but behind their backs they're being plotted against by the government and the people around them. This treatment leads to Zira eventually being in a situation where she is made to be drunk by a dude in the CIA, to where she gives up valuable secrets about ape culture and what will happen to the humans in the future. Things really start to fall apart when Zira and Cornelius tell the CIA that eventually there will be an ape named Caesar that will free all the other apes and humans will be extinct. We also find out that Zira is pregnant. The world starts to instantly turn on the apes. They become outlaws, fugitives, the pariahs of the society at the time. They're taken away and kept in a CIA facility called Camp 11. Stranger Things. I could not think of a joke, but I wanted to say that. In this camp, they're being drugged and forced to tell information about what happened in their society. My bad for making that joke. These movies get so dark and cruel so fast, it truly is crazy. They break out of Camp 11 and link up with a man who runs a circus. In my script, I put a circus man, but that felt like I was talking like a toddler, so I tried to work around that. Zira gives birth to an intelligent ape and names him Milo, which I think is so dumb because the dude was on screen for like 3 minutes and he got fucking destroyed by another ape in human world. You don't deserve that. We flash into the future where Zira, Cornelius, and baby Milo are now living on an abandoned oil tanker offshore so that they're not found by the CIA and killed or captured. We see that Zira cannot get Milo to speak, and she's worried that the line of intelligent apes ends with her and Cornelius, and that Milo will not bring upon the prophecy that they have brought back to the human world. The final set piece of this movie takes place on this giant oil rig where the CIA guy from earlier in the movie finds them, and the police end up showing up, and there becomes a huge shooting. And in true Planet of the Apes fashion, Zira is murdered in cold blood, Cornelius shoots someone and is then murdered in cold blood, then they shoot the baby, which is like so dark for the end of this movie. That is pretty much a comedy for 60% of the movie. All is lost. A bloody shootout has ended all intelligent apes. Unless, what if I told you? Milo is switched at birth with the guy at the circus's ape, so Milo is living on in a circus, but his name is now Caesar. Oh my god, it's like the movies I know. It's Caesar from the movies. Maybe one day he'll rise up and become the Moses of ape society and free them from captivity. I don't know, maybe. Probably not, though. To some degree, the majority of people on the planet, at least young people, are trying to become influencers as their job. Fuck, I'm doing it right now. I know that sounds wonky and like weird to think about, but that's how I've deduced it in my head. Having lived a little bit of life, I'm 23, I don't know everything, and I don't want to come off sounding like someone's grandfather. These damn kids are all on their fucking phones all the time. That's not what I mean. I just mean the age of the internet and consumerism and capitalism has led to everyone becoming a commodity. We are all influencers. I'm gonna go on a bit of a tangent on this because it's something I think about all the time and I find it really fascinating. There's a fucking bug tapping on my window. Fuck off! I'm making a fucking video on the apes. This age of the internet has bred the mindset that anyone can be famous and that creating content is a viable career path. In a lot of studies, most kids want to be a YouTuber when they grow up. At this point, I think it is a viable career path. There's so many different niches and places you can create content that there really is space for pretty much everyone. And if you are talented and work hard at something you do and get a little bit of luck, I think you have a pretty good path set out for yourself. But what about the people where there isn't space? I find myself constantly thinking about the people that have attempted to forge a career, whether it be YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, like any of these things, where they've really gone all in and it's failed. And that's what I'm doing right now. Even if they're still continuing to post to the void, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm putting so much work into these series of videos. I'm not trying to like guilt trip you to watch them. I just really enjoy making them. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm like okay with the fact that there's not any return from it because I enjoy it. But why do we do that? Is my question. The thought that one day, just maybe, if we try our hardest and get some luck, we will be able to do what most consider an easy job and something that grants full immunity to the viability of the corporate world. I think that's what this movie is for me. The insatiable urge to live above what other people live and enjoying what you're doing in the process. Willingly throwing yourself into a machine where everyone is constantly looking at you and criticizing you shouldn't be something that human beings want, but for some reason there's this weird urge inside of us for everyone to see us. And it doesn't matter if they're criticizing you, because at least they're looking. Sorry, got too intense. Planet of the Apes as a franchise is kind of peaks here. We're going down for a bit, in my opinion. As weird of a movie as this is, and as much of a divergence as it is, seemingly from the rest of the franchise, it does hold true to a director coming in, telling a story, and through that story having a vision of humanity and explaining how he understands the world. Just feel this one rings even more true in a modern age where the internet and the influencer have become such a large part of our daily life, constantly. And I mean constantly. And again, I am in no place to judge anyone for wanting to be an influencer. I currently want to as well. Just was trying to interrogate it a bit within my own self, kind of reflect on why I'm even making this video series. And I think that through this I have found that the point of this entire idea is to show that I care about something and hope that someone else cares about it as much as I do and maybe is interested to watch. I'm the happiest when I'm creating something, whether it's for myself or for someone else. And this is just the latest thing in a process I've been going through for years. I want to be an artist in any way that I can make it, whether it's visual, audio, anything.
That's what I'm doing right now.
So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it makes you feel a little bit better about something. I don't know, maybe creating your own art within a system that doesn't really reward art over content. That's all. This is probably the least smooth transition to the next movie, but next week... I'll be honest, this is the least interesting of the original 5 to me. They do really weird shit with like race and class, and it's like extremely dated, and it just kind of takes me out of the movie personally. But Monkey Jailhouse rock! Oh, also I'm sick, so don't make fun of how quiet I am, alright? I'm gonna put the comment on the screen that made fun of how quiet I was. Conquest for the Planet of the Apes starts with a time jump. We are now in 1991. And I bet now you're thinking, oh my god, 1991, that's the year that Ricochet came out with Denzel Washington and John Lithgow in a heated thriller that's a little too gory. I just watched that movie, I wanted to talk about it. Zira and Cornelius' child, Caesar, or the artist formerly known as Milo, is now a bit grown up. He lives with Armando, who is the circus man from the last movie that he was left with after his parents were brutally murdered on an oil rig. And near instantly we are shown apes being used as slaves in the human world. Oh, also, I forgot to mention in the last video, but part of Zira and Cornelius' prophecy was that there would be a dog and cat plague that would wipe out all dogs and cats on the planet, which would leave humans resorting to apes as
main pet.
And eventually servants. This has happened. We see scenes of apes being personal shoppers for humans as they go through like a little strip mall, and obviously Caesar does not like it. It is really interesting that they fulfill Zira's prophecy like just a movie later, and it makes you call back like, oh, they did mention that, and it's happening much faster than you would think it would happen, which might be because of the time jump and onsetting the cyclical nature of the entire franchise. It's kind of cool. Like, this movie is very similar to Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where you start with one intelligent ape ape, and eventually he leads others to his cause, which will snowball into an entire society of apes. Dude, stop spoiling the movie. We'll get there. So after Caesar witnesses an ape being beat up by a police officer, he speaks up and yells from a crowd of people to stop. Obviously, in this timeline, in this time period, apes do not speak. So Armando has to take the fall for speaking out for an ape, and he is taken away and taken to jail. When he is taken away, Caesar resorts to hiding and waiting for Armando to come back. Armando is then questioned by the governor, who, the governor is sort of like the big bad of this entire movie. He's got like a weird, like, fascist empire where it's built on the backs of the apes, and he's like looking for absolute power. So Armando is questioned by the governor. The governor starts to have a suspicion that Armando's ape, Caesar, is actually the child of Zira and Cornelius. So Armando is kept in custody. Caesar realizes Armando may not be coming back, and he might be in more trouble than he thought. So Caesar decides to hop in a shipment crate that is driving by at the time where he is hiding. We then pan out to see that the shipment is actually foreign apes from a different country. He's taken to a facility with other apes and starts to show his intelligence by organizing things and by sharing a banana with the rest of them in parts, which shows that he understands sharing. And this is where we start to see Zira's prophecy coming true. Caesar is now teaching the other apes to be intelligent. They're starting to get to the point of that dog you see on TikTok where it like pushes the buttons to speak and respond to its owner, which I don't know if anybody else, it really freaks me out. That guy's a freak. So I put this in the script, but I watched these so long ago that I do not remember how important it actually is, but I'll just read my note off for you guys here. Quotations: Caesar is chosen to inseminate a female chimpanzee at the facility. There you go, I said it. It feels gross. I feel gross, you feel gross. I don't even remember if it matters. There you go. There it is. We also find out that this facility is being used as a sort of auction house for apes, and for humans to buy apes to do their work for them. Now here's where I'm gonna sidebar for a second here. This movie is extremely dated and a bit racist. I do not think I am intelligent enough to dissect and talk about it, so I'm going to skim a bit over it, but know that there's a reason I don't like this movie very much. It feels very uncomfortable to watch, and there's a few instances that are really just like odd and make your skin crawl and ugh. Whatever. I'm telling you, the metaphor for this movie is really weird. I just kind of want to gloss over it. I don't want to dissect it. Caesar is taken to the governor's office and is shown a book. The governor asked him to pick a word from that book to be his name. He chooses Caesar. This alerts people that he has the chance to be the ape from Zira's prophecy, and the one she told them about from the future that will bring about the ape society.
I love Fridays, and I love you. Subscribe.
Hang on. Does that mean that Zira and Cornelius are technically descendants of their own son? And ew. Back to Armando, he is forced to sign a document to show that he isn't lying, but then they bring out this thing called an authenticator, which makes you tell the truth. And he's like, authenticate these fucking nuts, and just jumps out the window. Just gone, protecting Caesar's identity. I really love stupid tech in movies like The Authenticator. Like anytime something like that pops up, it just gets me really excited because it's like stupid sci-fi and I really enjoy it. Back in the facility, Caesar is forming a sort of militia, and the other apes are starting to pick up on the intelligence that he's trying to unlock in all of them. He starts to have them shirk their responsibilities around the facility and cause riots whenever is necessary. Caesar's taken to the governor's office again. Stay with me here. This is gonna be really odd, but this is a main plot point, and it's one of the weird moments. Okay. He makes a sympathetic ploy to the governor's right-hand man, McDonald, about racial injustice and how he should understand what he's going through. It's weird. And I wouldn't be covering it if it didn't play a part in the movie, so whatever. He tells McDonald that he's starting a revolution, and that he should understand and back their cause. Oh yeah, by the way, other humans don't know he can speak other than McDonald now. Caesar is captured and tortured and put on this bench that is like really dour. It's like quite frightening looking. He finally speaks to other humans and begs for pity while laying on the table about to die. McDonald then cuts the power and allows Caesar to escape. Caesar kills a man with a judo chop, which is insane. He links up with his little militia and then they storm the capital, the ape management facility, and free a bunch of the captive apes and recruit them to their cause. The news catches wind of apes escaping the facility and organizing, and the truth of talking apes has been broadcast to the entire world. Apes march on the Capitol building. Fuck, who put that in the script? That's so weird. They march on the city and the monkey net makes a big return here. A huge return. Swallowing up anything in its path, baby. The apes start taking guns from the police and wreaking havoc throughout the city. I actually think the end of this movie is quite well done, like action-wise. Like it looks really good. A lot of the colors and the lights are really bright. You see a lot of the apes moving in silhouette, and that might have been like a budgetary restriction at the time because as these movies go on, the budgets get lower, even though they're still doing well. Budgets are getting lower, so the ape makeup doesn't look as good as it did, say, the first movie or the second movie. So hiding them in shadows is really kind of cool, and it gives a sort of ominous vibe for when they are, attacking the entire city. Caesar leads the apes to the governor's office and has a monologue about apes taking over the human world just like it was prophesized.
Understood.
He's become a bit of a radical, which is kind of the point of this movie, is that he is taking it too far, becoming just like the humans. But then, as he's about to kill the governor, he realizes what he's doing and decides he will not be like the humans that tortured and killed them. He will spare him and start a new civilization. He doesn't want to prove them right about how apes are animals. McDonald then confronts Caesar, and Caesar doubles down, wanting to still rule the world. Lisa... Oh, that's why we mentioned the other thing, the insemination thing. It's kind of his girlfriend by force, I guess. They do that a lot in these movies. But as they leave the governor's chambers, they're out on the stairs and they're about to execute people. Lisa speaks up as the first other intelligent ape to speak, and she yells no to Caesar. She wants to stop the cycle of violence from continuing and start a better world for them. So yeah, Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is pretty straightforward. Outside of the weird metaphors, it's about the apes' takeover. It's about the origin of the Planet of the Apes, if you will. Apes are becoming intelligent, and they act on it. It's pretty simple. I will say, the whole idea of comparing the struggle of apes in this movie to the only black character in this movie is seriously tough to watch. And again, I'm not the person to talk about it, so I'm gonna leave it there. Overall, this movie's just kind of like okay to me, because I've seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which sort of does the same thing, just with like, you know, modern technology and a better story, in my opinion. And it doesn't have racism, so... it's kind of a W there. It is really cool to see like what people think about the most when they think about Planet of the Apes is like the origin of the world and how it even began in that way where apes ruled the earth. Shows how they broke from human control and how they started their own better society. For now. Overall, it's probably my least favorite of the first 5, like by a pretty large margin. And I think the last one is a bit more engaging thematically, and we'll talk about that next time. But it brings this whole first saga to a close in a really nice way that I'm gonna unpack over there. Today we are closing the chapter of the Planet of the Apes movies that your dad grew up watching in the 70s. Battle for the Planet of the Apes was initially my least favorite off of a first watch, but now that I've sat with it a bit and thought about the themes, I think it's clearly head and shoulders above the 4th movie. In the 5th installment of Planet of the Apes, we see humans and apes living in a sort of cohesive society, a utopia, if you will,
And I love you.
that has been crafted out of the wrongs of humans. This movie starts with a voiceover from the year 2670, given by the Lawgiver, who I haven't really mentioned in the rest of these movies up until this video, because I wanted to save him for this one because he plays a much more important role comparatively. The Lawgiver's kind of like the Pope of the apes. He's revered by all of them and is seen as this messianic figure. We see him in the first movie and the second movie as Dr. Zaius is talking about the Lawgiver and like what apes are supposed to be doing. It's all passed down by this guy that's giving the voiceover now. He talks about the state of the world and some historical events that happened between the last movies and where everything kind of generally stands in this universe going into the final chapter. The introduction to this movie really seals like the finality of it. It really feels like you're watching the last movie in a franchise from the jump. The Lawgiver tells us about an encampment where humans and apes are living somewhat peacefully after a global nuclear fallout that decimated most human life. Caesar is the head of this new civilization. He is now married to Lisa and they have a son named Cornelius. Now let me get this out of the way. Cornelius 2 is like the worst character in all of these movies. I fucking hate him. I don't care if you think Bad Ape from War of the Planet of the Apes later down the line is the worst character because he's annoying. This motherfucker is so annoying. You will never understand the hatred and vitriol I have for him.
If my father were a gorilla, we'd all be learning writing instead of writing.
Boo, boo, bad joke, get him off the stage! This moron makes me want to launch him into the sun. Under Caesar, there's a gorilla general named Aldo, who has a major issue with the way that humans and apes are interfacing throughout this new civilization. He thinks apes should rule over the humans and imprison them just like they did to them in the past. This is shown in a scene where a human is teaching speech lessons to these apes that are becoming intelligent, and he says the word no to one of the apes. Real quick, this has been established as like the main rule of ape civilization. There are kind of like the ape 10 commandments, but I don't have all of them, but I know 2 of them we'll talk about in this video specifically. And this is one of them. Humans should never say no to any ape. Aldo loses his mind on this old guy and just berates him for what he did until Caesar steps in and diffuses the situation. Evidently there's a deleted scene of like an extended chase between these 2 guys. I think that's really funny. We also learn in this scene that Aldo has his own followers of gorillas that have the same worldview as Aldo, where they think that humans should be under apes. We find Caesar having some real like self-doubt issues about leading this new colony of apes and humans, and he wishes that maybe his parents would still be here so they can instill some wisdom into him. His parents being Zira and Cornelius, if you do not remember from the earlier movies. He feels like they'd be able to help him understand how to be a better leader for these people. Oh, and then we're introduced to a character from the last movie, McDonald. Oh, what's that? Oh. Yeah, Baja Blast, please. large. Guys, I'm just hearing now actually that this is not McDonald, but rather his brother. I thought they just recast the guy. No, they made him his little brother. McDonald Jr., if you will. McDonald Jr. is Caesar's right-hand man in this new civilization. He tells him about how in the old human city, there are recordings of his parents that might be useful to him to go find. They get a group together and they start getting ready to go to the city. The human city. And now we're introduced to the main antagonists of this film, the mutant humans. Yeah, that's right, they're back. These, fun fact, are the descendants of the mutant humans in Beneath the Planet of the Apes, the second movie. So you're seeing the start of this nuke cult right now. They live underneath the rubble of the city that was collapsed when the nuclear war came through. The leader of this group of mutant humans is actually a character we know already, General Culp, who is from the fourth movie, but he doesn't really get much to do. He's just kind of like a lackey for the governor in that movie, but he did have a hand in capturing Caesar, so there's a bit of personal stakes to it. With Caesar and his RPG party of characters going into the city, they find the recordings and start to listen to them, and they find out about the doomsday bomb from the second movie that blew up the entire planet, and that the humans have it in their possession. While viewing these recordings, the humans find them and start to chase them out of the city back to Ape City. Caesar reports back to Ape City and calls a meeting with humans involved. Aldo obviously has an issue with this, so he takes some of his followers and they go off to talk as well. They're starting to set up a coup to overthrow Caesar as the leader of this civilization. While I was researching, I found out that there was no real working script for this movie as they were shooting, which, Jesus Lord, it makes sense. Not that this is horrible or bad by any means, but these story beats are very, like, generic and just kind of hit the marks as you need to hit them for, like, an action-adventure story. Even if I find value through the themes that are presented through this movie, whether intentional or not, I do think it's a bit cobbled together, all in all. They were flying fucking blind, bro, and they might have landed half the plane, but not the whole thing. As Aldo and his crew are talking about their plan to overthrow Caesar, we find out that Cornelius II is actually in a tree listening to them. Aldo notices he is listening, and he climbs that tree, takes out his sword, and batters him down from the tree, leaving Cornelius II critically injured. They scatter, and then the next day, a group of scout guerrillas are attacked by humans outside of Ape City. Aldo takes advantage of this situation and sees Caesar's mourning and grieving for his son, and enacts a sort of martial law where all the humans are imprisoned, and Aldo and his guerrillas loot the armory with all the weapons and guns that they've been stocked up from the humans. This is where a nexus point of the franchise kind of hits for me. The entire thesis of this movie is that once violence and weaponry is involved in a society, i.e. guns, the civilization starts to kind of crumble. We see that with the law, Ape shall not kill ape, being enforced throughout this movie, and the rest of the franchise, honestly, where up until this situation, the civilization had gone on pretty much peacefully. They touch on this on the later Burton reboot, but really don't flesh it out in any meaningful way. That's why I think that movie kind of stinks. Stinky movie. And I think that in upcoming Planet of the Apes movies, it would be really cool to implement that into the sort of story structure. And they kind of do in Kingdom. We'll talk about that way later. I think it's very profound to make a point about civilization and how weaponry and guns can really influence the culture of the society. And it really nails it down for me in this scene where they loot the armory. Cornelius II dies. Yes! Sorry, he dies. But before he dies, he tells Caesar that it was not a human that hurt him, but rather an ape. And this is where we sort of like segue into greater themes of the Planet of the Apes franchise. A lot of stuff from this movie eventually gets extrapolated into the Rise, Dawn, War trilogy and really gets fleshed out better and done better, but they're at least laying the groundwork here. One of the biggest points in those movies is ape shall not kill ape. Aldo has broken the sacred law. We know that as the viewer, but the characters do not. After Cornelius II's death, Culp and the mutant humans launch a full-scale invasion on Ape City, ultimately failing and being killed by Aldo and his army. The final battle is quite underwhelming, to be honest with you. I found that the director came out with frustrations about this movie, feeling like it should have had a bigger budget to really nail the scope of this final battle and the climax of this whole Planet of the Apes story. It is what it is. You can't change it now. But once the dust settles, Caesar is made aware that Aldo was the ape that hurt his son. And we see a harrowing shot of Aldo backing up while every ape says ape shall never kill ape and encroaches forward upon him. Aldo's genuinely scared shitless in the scene, and I think the actor does really well. He retreats up a tree and ends up falling to his death, just like his victim did. We then revisit the lawgiver, who's shown telling the story of Caesar to a group of human and ape children, which kind of means it all worked out. They all ended up being okay. We see a statue of Caesar in the future, and we see, finally, one single tear fall down the statue's eye, as we close on the original trilogy of the Planet of the Apes. Well, we're done the original movies. Overall, I feel like this set of movies is really top heavy, with the first two being my favorites and the third one being next, and then the fourth and fifth kind of battling out for the bottom spot. I did say that this one is better than the fourth, and it probably is just on like a thematic basis, but it's not very engaging to watch, truly. I really appreciate what these movies did for the science fiction genre and the action adventure genre of the time, and I think they really took a big swing and made some really fun hour and 20-minute movies that you can watch and really just have a good time jumping in. Like I said earlier, I really love the idea of like guns being implemented as like like the main crux of a crumbling society, and it shows a civilization kind of descending into madness and killing and harming each other. Dude, I feel like emotional. This has been such like a roller coaster making these videos and watching these movies. This has been awesome. I don't know, I feel like I'm like the Planet of the Apes guy now. For God's sake, my girlfriend got me like an original VHS box set of the 5 original Apes movies sealed. Like, this is so cool. It's such a cool little gift. Thank you. I love you. But yeah, this has been a fun journey. We've concluded the original 5 Planet of the Apes movies, but it's not over yet. Oh, no, no, no. We have the reboots to do, baby. Have you ever wanted to see a man make out with a monkey so bad that you resurrect a franchise that had died 30 years prior? Well, Tim Burton did. I'm not kidding. Here's a quote. Here's another quote. Planet of the Apes 2001 is a bit of a mess. But it can't be all bad because it stars my favorite actor, Mark Wahlberg.
Stay prayed up.
We open on a monkey operating a spaceship. Kinda killing it low-key. Your monkey launches at 1600. We find out this is Mark's ape and his name is Pericles. D's nuts. Similar to the rest of the Apes movies, things go haywire very quickly. The space station gets fucking EMP flashbanged, and all the power cuts out. They've hit an electromagnetic storm. There's a rule that all the apes do the reconnaissance missions on this spaceship, so no man-operated flights. Pericles is sent into the storm. He goes off course almost instantly and vanishes. Time for the man of the hour, the action hero Mark, to step up and save his guy. He gets in a ship against orders and seemingly risks his life for an ape that may be his only real friend.
Never send a monkey to do a man's job.
Mark seemingly lands on Dagobah and just leaves his space pod. These sets look incredible, by the way. I think a lot of the poor execution in this movie doesn't come down to the look, but rather the feel and like the things that are actually happening. The miniatures for this movie were done by the great ILM, or the people who did Star Wars, if you didn't know. And I will note now that time is a big element of this movie. And the clocks in Mark's ship were stopped when he went through this electromagnetic storm. Mark exits his vehicle and is greeted by a group of humans sprinting through the woods. Who could be chasing them? Oh, it's just the apes. We just see them pretty quick. They just kind of show you there's no real build-up. Monkey Net is back! The humans are all sacked up and taken back to a much more hostile ape city. Oh, and he also hits this.
Take your stinking hands off me, you damn dirty human!
We see the apes for the first time, and this is where I want to talk about the most positive aspect of this movie, in my opinion. Other than Mark, the best part of this movie, for certain, is the makeup. This is truly one of, if not the last big Hollywood makeup movie, where the entire production revolves around the makeup and how good it looks. I mean, for goodness sakes, Rick Baker was the first person hired for this movie, the legendary makeup and VFX artist. Rick Baker worked for ILM early in his career, the guys we talked about earlier, and then eventually would open up his own effects workshop and start working on movies like The Nutty Professor, Men in Black, King Kong, Videodrome, a lot of classic makeup movies. He's revered in the industry as a legend and really killed this movie, and I think that he did the best out of anyone on this entire production. Except Mark. With the storied history of these movies, many actors were pumped to get their hands on this script and take a swing at portraying an ape on screen in the modern era of filmmaking. Paul Giamatti plays an ape in this movie, and here's him talking about the process of wanting to get hired as an ape.
My agents were like, don't you think you should play a human so they can see your face? And I was like, if you tell them I want to play a human in this, I'll fucking kill you all.
In the original films, all the apes only had like one template face, and so they decided for this movie they're going to try and each ape will have their own face and like makeup and things that will distinguish them from the other apes on screen. The process of acting for this movie is far from traditional as well. I mean, look at this. Okay. They had these motherfuckers crawling around the floor and grooming themselves. I also want to take a second to point out that this movie was made incredibly rushed. The final script was locked in the fall of 2000, and principal photography was set to begin. They were given a deadline that the movie needed to be in theaters by July of 2001. Now that includes all of the edits and the post-production and the VFX and cleaning it up and marketing it and everything to distribute a movie, all while filming it in 6 months. Can you imagine how hard it is to film and finish a blockbuster in 6 months? The script was still being changed while sets were being built. All things considered, I can't even believe this movie really came out. But yeah, the makeup in this movie is amazing and they really knocked it out of the park. Mark is put in a cage with the other humans, reflecting the original films, and we see that the rules are the same and that humans can't talk in this universe either. The scene is filled with much more jeering than the originals are, like there's kids throwing rocks at them and everyone's kind of just yelling at them as they're taken through.
Don't be afraid.
I guess humans can just talk, they just didn't for a little bit there. We are now introduced to Tim Burton's muse and girlfriend, Ari. Guys, Tim Burton wanted Mark and the female ape to be romantically intertwined. That's so weird. Here's another quote. Ari is something of a freedom fighter for humankind in the ape civilization. She believes in freeing humans and not just selling them off. Liquid nitrogen cold take here. She's really annoying. and a bad character. She buys Mark and another human named Dana, and they work in Ari's house. Ari is the daughter of a senator in ape civilization, so her involvement with humans brings a lot of tension to the ape society, and her family specifically. General Thade is invited to dinner with the senator. General Thade is played by Tim Roth, who had this to say about being in the movie. But he does a great job in the performance. The character is just so shallow that, like, it doesn't really ring through. He hates humans, he wants power, pretty much it. So within the dinner scene, we're kind of established that every single ape there is afraid of General Thade and the power that his family and his name brings. Except Ari. They spar in the marketplace of ideas the entire scene. Before they eat, though, they say grace like a big happy family on a holiday. They pray, interestingly enough, to a god named Simos, who they expect to return in the future. There's a bit of tension between Thade and Ari, where Thade wants to court the young lady, and Ari fucking hates him, so doesn't really work out. Mark and Dana escape with 2 other humans during the dinner. And then we cut to Thade and his crew finding Mark's ship in the bog in Dagobah. Thade just killed 2 of his men brutally. He's in search for unparalleled power, and this ship just might give it to him. Mark and Dana find Dana's family and free them as well, so now they have a little posse. I think it's really funny that they just kind of do away with the whole humans can't speak aspect of these movies, because I feel like it's really integral to the feeling of isolation within these movies, where in the original, Charlton Heston is seriously alone. He can't communicate with others, he can't do anything, because they can't speak. But in this one, it's just kind of like cavemen, but like they speak perfectly normal English. I don't know. It really takes away from the movie for me. Oh, while I was talking, they had ape seduction up. Sorry guys, that's horrifying. I do think that Burton adds a lot of funny elements that the apes are doing just in their day-to-day lives. And it connects much more than the movies from the 70s in my opinion. There's a scene right after this weird like walking in on an ape sex scene bit where an ape just takes off a toupee and puts it on like a little mannequin, and I think that's really funny. It made me chuckle when I watched it. The humans run into Ari on their escape route, and she teams up with them and helps them escape. They're flirting again! Dana's father has been injured, and he decides to like sacrifice homie stock himself so that they have more time to escape. They escape Ape City, and they come back to Dagobah. Mark goes down to look for his ship and retrieve a bag of supplies. We now have entered a plot point that I think is really, really, really stupid, where apes are just horrified of water. I'm gonna look this up real quick, hang on. Oh, guess that's just Mother Nature I'm beefing with then. My bad. They retrieve the bag, but they find 2 dead apes floating in the water. The guys Thade killed earlier. Mark boots up his special device, the Messenger. Okay, bad name. And it says the ship is already on this planet ready to pick him up. Paul Giamatti is back, baby! He stops them and tries to take his humans back in a little fight scene. Then Mark launches off a shot of his gun, and it horrifies the apes. Also, I don't know what kind of gun this is. It just kind of explodes on impact, like a projectile explosion. But he has like a separate flare gun, so I'm not really sure what it is. They take Limbo with them. Limbo is Paul Giamatti's character. Just gonna give an honorary Oscar performance to Paul Giamatti for this, because this is incredible work he's doing. He's the only character in like performance that really does anything for me, other than Mark. And he's like carrying this thing on his back. Until he's just not in the movie really anymore. The gorilla that works with Ari snatches the gun from Mark and smashes it on a rock so that he doesn't use it against them. Kind of weird to add a gun, shoot it once, and then destroy it in 5 minutes. And it's even weirder when you realize there's another one later. Whatever. Thade is asking for martial law and absolute power to hunt down these humans that have escaped. Thade wants to eradicate all humans.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
And he is granted that absolute power by the senator. Thade knows that Mark is special. He's captured him, he's seen his eyes, he's seen his ship, and he wants to make sure that the ape way of life is not jeopardized. Actually, you know what? I won't even give his character that much credit. He doesn't really have that much allegiance to apes, seeing as how he just kills them when he needs to kill people. He really just wants power. It's pretty shallow, really boring villain. Okay, so now we see General Thade's father, who is played by Charlton Heston. Yeah, remember from the first one, that guy. Yeah. This scene should be dynamite, but it is not. It is so incredibly flat. Thade's father tells Thade the history of the apes and how humans did used to rule the world. This whole conversation culminates in a shot where a gun is shown sealed within an ancient vase. And this hits on the exact points that I love about these movies, where like once violence is introduced and you break open Pandora's box, like anything could happen to the society and could all crumble down. But it doesn't do that. And it's also very funny that Charlton Heston is giving this speech about guns and how important they are to power after all his like NRA shenanigans.
Damn them. Damn them all to hell.
He said the line, he said the line, he said the line, he said the line. Yeah, so they like kind of touch on the idea of guns and violence being the downfall of their society, but not enough to matter, which I think makes this movie much more about the individual apes striving for power rather than what this whole franchise is about, where apes as a society are being compared to human society, and it's sort of a mirror for humans to look at themselves and learn something. So now there's a good portion of this movie where it's just the main characters and their little party walking through the Forbidden Zone trying to get to the ship. It's really boring, man. They say that the Forbidden Zone is where Seamos will return when he comes back, their god. They need to cross a body of water, it becomes dramatic because they have apes and whatever. It's whatever. It's really boring. It's not a fun set piece. Get on a horse, the horse sinks, the horse dies, they have to swim across, then they get it, they make it across, yippee, yay, they made it across, whatever. They were gonna make it across either way. Now there's a scene where like they report back to General Thade that they didn't catch the humans, and he just kind of loses his mind and starts jumping around, and I think it's really funny. Guys, please stop flirting. You're scaring me. They go on horseback for the rest of the ride to find the signal that is pinging Mark's messenger, and they finally arrive and see a ruined ship. Mark's ruined ship. Alright kids, now I'm going to teach you a little lesson about time travel. Well, time travel in this movie. This movie was so confusing to audiences when it came out that the DVD came with this little insert that explains the entire timeline and how things happened. Dear Lord, is this confusing. It says in big red text, time does not travel in a straight line through an electromagnetic storm, and then has a really confusing graph that is just a nightmare. Yes, I have the insert, and yes, that does mean I have the DVD. Mind your business. So the wormhole that Pericles and Mark went through at the beginning of the movie sends them through time, but not in the same way. The timeline of who comes out where and at what time are truly just based on when you went into the storm, which is all relative and stupid. We'll get to it later. There's a few more plot points that need to happen before I spoil the rest of the movie through the time travel analysis. We find out that Seamos was on this ship and was the first leader of the apes uprising over humans. Mark's entire crew has been killed by apes that were on his ship. Mark feels guilt. He's such a good protagonist. So the next day, every human on the planet just kind of shows up and backs up Mark's cause. And now the apes are on the march, so oh baby, we're gearing up for a big battle. Big final battle. The humans see Mark as this big savior that came down from the stars to save them. Ari visits Thade's encampment and offers herself to him in return for the humans not being slaughtered. He denies and brands her with the human branding on her hand so that she can identify with the humans. Mark sees the ship still has power and he has an idea, a heroic idea from Mark. He gives an incredible monologue about how awesome humans are. Hell yeah.
Our history is filled with men who have done amazing things.
And now we set up for the big blockbuster final battle. I will say there is a positive here, and that is the sheer scope of this battle. After watching Battle for the Planet of the Apes, the budget was much lower, and one of my criticisms of that movie was that the final battle really didn't have the scope that was necessary to bring it to life in the way that I thought they could. This movie has tons of extras, all in ape makeup, giant set, huge fights, multiple people in the same shot and scene, big kind of one takes that are kind of cool, and it just captures that big battle better than the originals could. Even if the sets are kind of dull and boring and gray, they're still huge and massively impressive. He leads the apes to the back of the ship and lets off the final fuel cell, causing a huge explosion, throwing apes around, which leads to this really funny scene. The humans rise from behind the ship and the brawl starts. A Wilhelm scream is always nice. Thade is tearing his way through humans, making his way to Mark. No, Mark, no, run! A loud crack is heard. The battle stops. A ship sets down from the sky. Oh my god, it's Pericles, he's back. The apes think that this is Seamos returning, but Thade is not convinced and chases Pericles into the ship, throwing him into a wall. Mark defends Pericles and Pericles defends Mark, but all in all it becomes Mark versus Thade in a final battle over who gets the gun. Pericles is struggling back to his cage, bleeding profusely. Thade's dismissal of Seamos allows for the other apes to understand Thade and what he really wants, and that's just power, and they turn on him. Thade gets the gun, but Mark shuts the door, and Thade is trapped in a glass case. Yay, the heroes won! Oh my god, they're kissing! He kisses the ape! He kisses the ape! Burton got a sick little dream! Wait, Mark's not awesome? Oh no, I thought he was the best. I thought he was the action hero. He kissed an ape? That's gotta be the worst thing he's done. Thade is trapped in a glass case, Pericles is staying with the apes, and Mark is taking Pericles' ship back home. Wait, why does the Lincoln oh no. Oh my god, Thade came back and took over the world? Ape cops? Oh my god. Alright, so now we can talk about the time travel. And according to this little stupid graph, this is how it works. The later you go into the wormhole, the earlier you come out. So by Pericles going in first, he came in after Mark. And by the original ship going in after Mark, they ended up landing on the planet of the apes centuries before Mark even got there. This allows Thade, whenever the hell he gets out, and however the hell he gets to Earth, to get there way before Mark, allowing him to take over the world. The movie has a lot of issues. I feel like Burton's Planet of the Apes is just the anti-serum to this franchise. If you enjoy the originals and even the newer movies, this movie just kind of does the opposite of everything you're supposed to like about those, while pretending like it's doing the same thing. This has no real drive or like hit to the core of humanity in any sort of reflective way, and doesn't really take any big swings other than makeup and casting fucking Mark Wahlberg as your lead actor. And that's a bad swing. I'm dropping the bit. I don't like Mark Wahlberg. I really despise this film for everything that it doesn't bring to the table. I am still astounded that this movie was pretty much made fully in 6 months and brought to a large audience, and is pretty much a finished movie, even if it is missing a lot of what I like about movies. As a reboot, it successfully captures none of what people liked about the original movies, in my opinion, and almost feels like a spit in the face to anyone who actually pays attention to these stupid ape movies. And how the fuck does he engineer space travel for the first time within the time that he gets out of that glass case and dies? That doesn't make any sense. Overall, I just feel like this movie is bad and I don't like it. And it is truly one of the worst reboots ever made. Jesus Christ, we can finally get to the good ones. Cybernetic Monkeytron 9000. We've reached the digital age. We no longer need a man in a monkey mask. We just need an amorphous glob fashioned by a computer to look like an ape on screen. And you know what? It kinda rocks. This new batch of Planet of the Apes movies is known for having nailed the motion graphics aspect of making movies. Every time these movies have been discussed for the last 10 years, it's really almost always about how good the monkeys look. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is not perfect, but it is an omen of greatness to come. James Franco leads this movie, which sure doesn't happen anymore. He plays a scientist working on a cure for Alzheimer's named Will Rodman. This noble journey for human health, we find out, has a personal twinge to it later in the movie when we see that his dad suffers from Alzheimer's. Just a side note here, weirdly good adaptation of Alzheimer's in a movie. Just a side note here, weirdly good adaptation of Alzheimer's in a movie. And I also want to take a moment to really talk about the motion graphics aspect of this movie, because I feel it's super important to the grand narrative of making this movie. It is ridiculous! They animated every single ape you see on screen. There is not a single real ape in this movie. They did previs for 1,500 shots. 1,500 shots! Andy Serkis plays Caesar, and he is truly the modern father of motion graphics acting. He's created a whole new school of acting, where you're acting through computer graphics to create a performance that's compelling with an animated character. He was the voice of Gollum in Lord of the Rings, he did this, and he's also done Supreme Leader Snoke in the new Star Wars movies, which I promise will be the last time I talk about the sequel trilogy to Star Wars, at least for today. He finds a way to pull out an incredible human performance every time, even through all the layers of animation and computer graphics. And spoiler, this only gets better throughout these movies, so strap in. He really makes this movie what it is at its core because he gives Caesar such a humanity as a character, and that's something we really just weren't able to get in the 70s. Now we get to see the apes for the first time. The drug they are creating to cure Alzheimer's is actually being tested on these apes. They're seeing a lot of growth within the apes that have taken the drug. But one ape, Bright Eyes, starts to go feral. Will is presenting his new drug at this meeting in this glass, very 2010s blockbuster corporate lab, but then Bright Eyes bursts through the glass and is promptly filled with lead. This obviously causes the research of the drug to be shut down, and all the apes have to be put down. In Bright Eye's cage, there is a baby ape. Will is given that ape to take home because the caretaker said he just couldn't put down a baby. This shows that it wasn't the drug that made Bright Eyes feral, but rather the maternal instinct to protect her child. This baby ape's name is Caesar. 3 years later, Will has been using the Alzheimer's drug ALZ-112 secretly on his father, and it's been working. He cured Alzheimer's. Will has Caesar living in his house as like a ward, like a Batman and Robin sort of situation, and Caesar is hyper intelligent. This movie kind of feels like a little family movie for a good chunk of the beginning portion, just showing Caesar growing up and getting more intelligent as he goes through life with Will as his parent. Look at his cute little room. This window is going to be important for every movie after this. Things really kick off in this movie when Caesar goes outside to try and be a real boy and play with the kids in the neighborhood, but he is chased down by an angry neighbor who injures him. He's taken to a vet at a zoo because Will has no idea where to take his ape son, and we meet the female love interest of this movie, Caroline. The love interest is between the humans this time, not Caesar. Caesar doesn't love the lady, but Caroline is impressed by Caesar's intelligence. We cut to a scene where Will and Caroline take Caesar to the redwoods to go swing around. He's kind of living like a Hannah Montana. He wants to be a real boy, but he wants to be a real ape. He doesn't really know where he fits. He's wearing fucking jeans and a sweater. You can't have something in jeans and on a leash. Like, you gotta pick one of those two things. Caesar actually feels the same way and kind of shows some disdain for being pretty much a pet, while he's also hyper intelligent. Will then takes Caesar to the lab and shows him where he was born and how he got hyper intelligence. ALZ-112 is no longer working on Will's father, and he's starting to forget things, and it's really sad. He leaves the house and gets into the mean neighbor's sports car. The neighbor berates him, and Caesar comes to his defense, chasing him down and eventually biting him. Will is now forced to take Caesar to the zoo. Well, it's really like an animal control shelter, but I'm gonna call it a zoo for shorthand because it's a place where animals are in cages. I don't know. Real quick, can you just imagine your neighbor hiding a hyper-intelligent ape for like years? I feel like someone would have had to notice. Well, I guess he did because he escaped and they just were chill with it, I guess, like years before. I don't know. Caesar doesn't realize he's being left at this zoo, and it kind of feels like an ASPCA ad for like a little bit there. You guys remember those commercials? They were like 6 minutes long. Like, dude, I'm trying to watch fucking SpongeBob, man. Sorry that happened to you. Jesus Christ. We are now introduced to our antagonist of sorts. Well, there's not really like an outright villain in the first section of this movie, but he's the most antagonistic out of anybody that's in the movie so far. He abuses the apes, and him and Caesar instantly spark a rivalry. Tom Felton plays the horrendous zoo employee. Caesar is horribly treated in the zoo. I mean, he's like hosed down with a giant fire hose by Tom Felton and just laughed at and like tased. We go back to Will and his research. He's making a new serum, ALZ-113, and we see the first test specimen for that serum, Koba. Will goes to visit Caesar and sees that Caesar has written his window on the wall, and Will tells him he's not going to be able to get him out. Caesar wipes away the window off the wall and realizes he can't go home. He has to find a new one. Now, by this point, Caesar has been somewhat initiated into the community of apes by being tortured by the rest of them, essentially, for wearing clothes and not acting like an ape. And they're beating the fuck out of him and ripping his little shirt. It's horrible. Let him wear his shirt, man. He ditched the leash. Now he can just wear the shirt. After Will leaves, Caesar starts a plot to get the apes out. Tom Felton brings his friends drunkenly to the zoo and starts torturing the animals, which obviously is not cool, not chill. No one really likes it. But Caesar grabs one of them and threatens them. And the next day at recess or whatever, Caesar uses his intelligence over his strength and frees Buck the gorilla from his giant enclosure. He's now made an alliance with the strongest ape in the facility. He's the top of the food chain. Will's father refuses treatment with ALZ-113 and passes away in his sleep. Now, a character I haven't talked about much yet is Will's boss, Franklin. Hey, editing Billy here. I actually confused this section when I was writing it. I'm actually talking about two characters at the same time. One is Will's boss, Jacobs, and one is the guy who was the ape handler in the beginning, named Franklin. So I'm talking about two people at the same time, and it doesn't make sense. But that's it. It's two different guys. Here's a picture. He is the real overarching villain of this movie, which represents corporate greed, which leads to the entire Planet of the Apes being born. He comes into the lab incredibly sick and coughing up blood.
This is an omen of the plague. This is an omen of the plague. This is an omen of the plague.
Here's where we start to see the most similarities come into play with the older movies like Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. The director of this movie, Rupert Wyatt, said in 2011, "We've incorporated elements from Conquest of the Planet of the Apes in terms of how the apes begin to revolt, but this is primarily a prequel to the 1968 film." And at the time, this movie wasn't seen as a new continuity or like a reboot of the original franchise, as it was the history that they talk about in the first Apes movie with Caesar. This, as a new age remake of the fourth movie, is a much better execution in my opinion. I have an entire video where I unpack my issues with that movie, but I think that this works so much better as an origin story for Caesar and the real Planet of the Apes coming to fruition. I like it as an origin for the myth of Caesar. The myth of Caesar is something we're going to talk about a lot in the next few weeks when we talk about these new age Planet of the Apes reboots. He is truly like a messianic figure when it comes to ape lore and ape history, and this movie really outlines the basis of what those beliefs stand on. Will returns to the facility and tells Caesar he's going to be able to take him home, but Caesar decides he's found a new home with the apes. That night, Caesar escapes through the skylight in the zoo, goes to Will's home, and takes ALZ-113 out of the fridge. He gives it to the other apes, and the Planet of the Apes has been set into motion. They congregate together and have a little meeting about how they're going to escape. Tom Felton sees them and tries to get Caesar back into his cage, which is where, for the first time, Caesar utters the word, "The revolution has started." Caesar and the other apes escape the zoo and head to the lab. They're gonna free the apes that are being tested on. These onslaught scenes where they just march on a building and free a bunch of apes are really awesome. The amount of effort that went into creating hundreds of CGI apes to fill in these frames is amazing. These scenes blew people's mind when they saw it in theaters for the first time, and I still think they really hold up today. I think that the daylight scenes really accentuate how good the animation is, because you can get something to look good in like a shadow, but doing it in broad daylight is a whole different story. And the fact that the models for these apes get even better as these movies go on is crazy. Wait till we get to War. Those are crazy looking apes. These apes are not trying to take over the city like they do in Conquest, but rather they're trying to escape to a place where Caesar knows they'll be safe. The redwoods from earlier. But there's one very large red obstacle in the way. The Golden Gate Bridge. The final set piece of this movie is absolutely incredible. This is why you buy a ticket to this movie. Like, seriously. The apes are trying to get across the bridge while there's a blockade, so they have to climb and jump and fight their way through the bridge. Franklin is in a helicopter trying to get away, but Buck the gorilla sees him, grabs the helicopter, and pulls it to the ground as he's being shot. Absolute hero. Absolute... what a G. The apes lose a few of their own, but eventually they make it across the bridge to the redwoods. Will knows exactly where Caesar is going and meets him out in the woods. Will tells him to come home, but Caesar says,
Caesar is home.
hey, remember how I said that guy was coughing blood earlier? Yeah, so that comes back at the end of the movie where the neighbor, who is a pilot, goes to the airport to like fulfill his job and fly a plane, and you see him start to cough up blood. This is the simian flu, which you will see in the next movie is what starts the Planet of the Apes. It's kind of like in the originals when they talk about the dog and the cat flu where it takes out all of that race, but this is spreading like wildfire, and you see it at the end of the movie spreading throughout the entire world. We will see the aftermath of that in the next movie, and we'll talk about that. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is truly such a great concept for a reboot of this franchise. Even if the intention was to make a one-off prequel, I think they really nailed that too. It makes so much sense in terms of a reboot to the continuity as well as a prequel to the original movie. The idea to use full motion capture graphics for this movie was a bold swing, but I think it pays off entirely, and Andy Serkis is the man for getting this to work acting-wise. Like I said earlier, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but it sure does knock it out of the park for being a great 2010s action movie, and it sets up this franchise for greatness down the line. James Franco is actually surprisingly solid in this movie. Like, it actually looks like he cares, and he's reading his lines, and he's doing well. I think his character works really well in this movie. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is an amazing retelling of a pretty muddy 70s adventure movie, and it really finds the catalyst of this entire world and hones in on it. It's sometimes played like a family movie, it's sometimes played like a disaster movie, and it's sometimes played like an action movie. One thing I will say about the reboots is, compared to the originals, they're a lot less on the nose with what they are trying to tackle societally, and I think that's okay because they're trying to make blockbusters, and I feel like that would alienate some viewers, but I do think that this movie has like very little to say. There's not much of a grand point to this movie for me, and I think it's just a really solid flick that starts this new era of Apes movies. Next time we talk about... You ever lived through a global pandemic that wipes out a significant portion of the human population and shuts down everything in the world around you?
If you have fever and cough or sore throat, stay home.
Oh fuck, wait, hang on. I've noticed that most people who like these Planet of the Apes movies love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. This is kind of the staple of these new Apes movies, and this time around we have a new director, Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves really reinvented the Planet of the Apes franchise more than anyone, in my opinion. He reinvents what a Planet of the Apes movie means. Caesar is fronted as the main character, and these last few movies are very specifically about apes rather than the humans. He flipped the whole franchise on its head by making the main character an ape, rather than a human trying to find his way home from an alien planet. This movie establishes a whole new world that has been built around the crumble of human society with the simian flu spreading throughout the world. We are now in a world of turmoil. Apes are living in their own society in the woods, and humans are scrounging for any semblance of survivability that they can find. I really love the atmosphere of this movie and the darker tone that it brings after the brighter tone of Rise in the last movie. It's definitely a sequel, but in a very disconnected way. We have lapsed 10 years in the future from the events of Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This movie opens with various news reports and clips of the simian flu spreading through the entire world, and we're seeing like Indiana Jones lines go over and back and forth across the whole world. It spread like a wildfire. This is due to the pilot at the end of Rise who got on a plane and infected a ton of people with the simian flu. Genesis Labs catches a stray here, and I think that's well deserved, seeing as they destroyed the world. I mean, Will Rodman might have cured Alzheimer's temporarily, but he did in turn kill millions of people and destroy the world. This movie instantly starts with a darker, more serious tone. This ain't your grandpappy's Planet of the Apes. This is a young man's game. The first shot is a slow dolly shot out of Caesar's face with war paint in the rain, surrounded by his apes and it like a militia. We learn that Caesar now has a son, and he's with him on this hunting expedition. The score rocks here. It's done by Michael Giacchino. He's great. He's come up in the last few years having done the Batman and a lot of other stuff. They scare some deer into another group of apes, hurtling them into one position, and the apes are now incredibly intelligent and have developed some sort of sign language so that they can communicate with each other. The beginning scene of this movie I feel like is super important, especially establishing where we're going from Rise of the Planet of the Apes onward. This almost feels like another reboot. Shortly after they're done looking for the deer, Caesar and his son encounter a giant grizzly bear who attacks them. This scene specifically makes me sad because bears are like my favorite animal in the entire world, and I feel like I hate seeing them get hurt, but then Koba comes in with this crazy flying fucking Superman stab with a spear, and I can't say anything but hell yeah. We see that Caesar and his son have a bit of a rocky relationship. Caesar is now the king of this new civilization and is having trouble juggling being a father and being a leader for the rest of the apes. The new ape city is awesome. It's carved out of this like mountainside, and it's all built out of wood, and it's a bunch of structures. It's really cool. I just love the design of these Reeves movies, man. And this is a good time to talk about Weta Digital. They do the visual effects for these movies, and that includes the motion capture for all the actors and creating all of the apes and the surroundings that inhabit this world. And that includes bears and elk too. So I guess they do a bunch of animals. There we go. Yet again, no real animals, and I think it's insane that I am so bought into a movie that is driven by CGI apes. Like, they really pulled this off to the point where I am super in no matter what happens. And I didn't get to mention my favorite character, Maurice, when we talked about Rise of the Planet of the Apes. He has a lot less to do in that movie, but this one he becomes a core member of Caesar's cabinet, essentially. Maurice is an orangutan that showed signs of intelligence before he was given the ALZ-113. He rocks, and he's the moral foundation of Caesar's whole kingdom. Caesar's wife is introduced, and she gives birth to Caesar's new son, who is introduced to Caesar's older son, and they have a nice little family. Next we see two apes, one being Caesar's oldest son out on some sort of scouting mission, and they interact with a group of humans who pull a gun on them. A gunshot shakes the forest and an ape is down. It's not Caesar's son, but it's Rocket's son, Ash. Rocket is one of Caesar's main guys. Like, a few of the guys from Rise came over to this movie and became like his core guys. So we have Maurice, Rocket, and Koba are like the three main ones. Caesar and a huge group of apes go and confront the humans, and he yells, "Go!" telling them to leave the woods. The humans scatter off, but one of them drops their bags, and Maurice picks it up, and it's a teenage boy's art book. The apes follow the humans to the human encampment, which is led by, oh hey, Gary Oldman's here. I love that guy. This guy losing his mind over the apes is really, really funny.
He spoke that.
His name is Carver, and he's incredibly integral to the story here, so keep him in mind. We see the human city. It's a ruined San Francisco. This shit looks like The Last of Us. The sets are so fucking good in this movie. They're running with no real power, so they need to get through the woods to a dam past the apes so that they can restore power to San Francisco. The apes do recon and have a meeting on what they should do. Koba is already showing that he really wants to fight the humans. Just want to say it again, the motion capture in these movies is incredible, and it only gets better here. It's a whole rung up from Rise. It's amazing. The apes have horses in this one. That's awesome. They're going to the human city to talk. Essentially, Caesar shows up and tells them, fuck with the apes, you get the horns. Or however that saying goes. Jason Clarke plays the main human, who is named Malcolm, and he goes out to talk to Caesar. This scene of like a giant group of apes confronting like a giant city of humans is probably enough to make the original creators of the Planet of the Apes movies from the 70s shed a tear. Like, this is truly their vision fully realized. Caesar can speak a little bit, but he has a bit of a broken dialect, which I think really works for the world that they've built up here. They give the teenagers art bag back, and they set the boundary of the woods as the place where the apes live. I really love the post-apocalyptic setting of this one, where it's just kind of the end of the world, and I think it really harkens back to the second movie where they go into the human city and find humans. The main crux of this story revolves around the humans looking for power, and I mean literally electricity, and the apes not trusting humans to peacefully coexist. Jason Clarke goes to the woods and tries to deliberate with Caesar how they can work in the dam and also not disturb the ape society. This movie is deeply about trust and how you see other people through your own worldview. Caesar is trusting of the humans and allows them to go work in the dam. He really lets his connection to Will Rodman from the last movie cloud his decision making when it comes to leading the apes, which allows for Koba to challenge him in the future of this movie. And to me, yet again, I think a lot of the conflict of this movie revolves around the use of weapons. Dawn is very akin to a lot of the earlier Planet of the Apes movies where they establish a political issue in human society and reframe it around the ape society and how that interacts with each other. And I think the framing device of using the apes as a reflection of our own society is incredible, and I think it works really well, and I think that's why these movies succeed. I think Dawn does a really good job of making a really solid action film while also doubling back to what the original creators intended when they made Planet of the Apes. The introduction of weaponry and guns is where the ape society starts to crumble yet again. We've seen this before. This does a much better job than the Tim Burton movie. Oh my god, get it away, get it out! And it shows the actual power struggles between the humans and the apes, and eventually an even smaller mutiny of apes. All that to say, I think this shot of the apes destroying the gun is really funny. Carver is a loose cannon and no one really likes him, but they eventually realize they have to bring him to the dam because he's the only one who knows how to work it. Maurice jump scares the human kid and is interested in his books, and the apes and the humans are making a connection despite their differences. I love when the apes ride horses, it's so fucking cool. We see humans testing guns in an armory when Koba and a few other apes show up and start looking at what they're doing. Koba thinks the humans need to be destroyed. They decide to go back to Caesar and tell him about the arsenal of weapons. Meanwhile, the humans continue work on the dam. There's a huge explosion and Carver is covered in the debris, but he is pulled out by other apes, and it shows that there's a connection of trust between the humans and the apes by this point. Caesar's youngest son shows up, the little baby, and starts to play with the humans, and everyone thinks he's cute, but then he gets into a box of Carver's, and he finds a gun. Carver freaks out and starts running at the ape, and Caesar almost beats the living hell out of him for this. Caesar then finds the gun and launches it into the lake, and this has wavered the trust of Caesar in the humans. He tells them all to leave, and honestly at this point, I'm just figuring out the dam myself. Fuck that guy Carver. Get him out of here. Back at the city, Caesar's wife is very ill. Malcolm runs back up to Ape City to deliberate with Caesar a little more, and this time he brings his girlfriend, who is a medical doctor. She offers to help Caesar's wife, and in return they get to work together on the dam again. Carver is sent back to the truck.
See you tomorrow, asshole.
Koba reports to Caesar's son about the weapons that they found in the armory, which drives a wedge even further between Caesar and his son. The apes and the humans are now working together at the dam. Koba shows up and rivals Caesar, telling him that he favors humans over apes. It gets a little hostile, but Maurice stands up for the kid. I fucking love him, man. He's the GOAT. Toby Kebbell plays Koba, and I think he does a really, really good job. And obviously, Andy Serkis is doing amazing work here for Caesar. It's incredible. It's even better than the last movie. And I'm gonna say that for the rest of the movies. He just keeps getting better. Caesar bitches the fuck out of Koba and puts him in his place. Ape, not kill ape. Koba now has a chip on his shoulder to get back at Caesar. Koba goes back to the armory and slaughters the humans that were there, taking a gun for himself. So this movie kind of works in two parts, where the dam is kind of the first half of the movie, and then the second half of the movie is like one giant battle and like power restructuring of the apes. Koba brings weapons back to the apes, and Malcolm, with the help of the apes, has restored power to the city. The set with the gas station all up in like a post-apocalyptic forest is really cool looking. Carver is ambushed by Koba and killed in the truck. Caesar brings the humans back to Ape City, where they get to see the entire human city lit up in the skyline. Then Koba and his goons set Ape City on fire. Koba attempts to assassinate Caesar. Caesar is shot and seemingly falls to his death. The ape community is in turmoil, and Koba rises up and takes leadership of the apes, saying they have to go avenge Caesar by killing all the humans. Caesar's son takes Koba's word for it and goes to attack the humans. Maurice says to the other humans in Ape City, Koba just started a war, and he plans on striking first on the human city. Back at that city, the humans are now very much out in the streets celebrating that the lights are back on, and the radios are on, and everything is back. Gary Oldman's iPad is charged, and he's going to watch the latest Billy Advanced video. Nah, I'm joking. He's looking at pictures of his dead children and family. Just as they get the radios working, the apes raid the armory. The apes gear up, and they're ready for war. Surely none of them will dual-wield an LMG while riding on horseback. Now we have reached the battle. Or the war. Or... fuck. The Conquest? Shit, I don't know. We've reached the feud of the planet of the apes. Apes are falling in droves, but they're pressing on to destroy the humans. Caesar's son is realizing that it might not be worth it as he sees all of his people falling and dying in battle.
Oh my fucking god, he did it, oh my fucking god.
The fights between the humans and the apes in this movie really put the originals to shame. Like, it is incredible what we've achieved with filmmaking. Giving the apes personality and character really takes it up a notch when you're doing a battle, because you care about either side. And it's super interesting that through all the layers, you really just see one ape's ploy for power. The humans bring out a tank, which throws me for a loop every time. Like, I know they have a military base, but I don't know why I'm never expecting a tank to show up. Oh, and the apes took over the tank. This shot is incredible, where they just fastened a camera to the lid of the tank and watch the apes attack the guy driving it and then drive it into the wall of San Francisco. It's really cool. We see the parallels of these two societies burning, with Ape City literally burning and San Francisco being invaded.
Whoa, Caesar survived the gunshot and the fall. Oh my god, we have more movie left.
Caesar is rescued by the human crew, and they bring him back to the city to try and stop Koba. He tells the humans that it was not a human who shot him, but rather an ape. Ape, not kill ape. Koba is forcing a young ape, Ash, to kill somebody, but in the name of Caesar, Ash refuses, to which Koba responds by throwing him off a ledge and killing him. This is not the ape way. Ape, not kill ape. The humans get back to the city with Caesar, and he brings them to his old home, the place he lived with James Franco. It's nice that they tied this into Rise more thoroughly, because they really didn't need to after such a long time jump. We see a picture of Will Rodman, and then humans are all placed in cages, as well as any ape sympathetic to Caesar.
Maurice, no, get him out, please get him out.
Malcolm goes back to the human city to get a med kit for Caesar when he runs into Caesar's son. He brings him back to Caesar to show that he's alive, and Caesar and his son team up to go back and fight Koba. See, I told you the window was important. I said it in the last video, and I bet some of you didn't believe me. That window's important now, isn't it? It's the symbol for Caesar in these movies, and I think it's really great imagery. Caesar's son breaks out all the apes and the humans that were caged up in Koba's city. Caesar, still recovering, goes up to his old room and finds a camcorder. On this camcorder, he he watches a video of him and Will Rodman learning how to sign. The Ape Squad returns to the house, and they decide to go into the city through the tunnels. Final set piece of this movie is set in a giant tower in the middle of the city that the humans have made their base of operations. Malcolm runs into Gary Oldman, whose name in this movie, by the way, is Dreyfus. I just didn't call him that because I like Gary Oldman. Dreyfus tells Malcolm his plan to blow up the entire building from the bottom. He's rigged the whole foundation with C4. Caesar is going to the top of the tower to fight Koba. Malcolm pulls a gun on Dreyfus and his crew and tells him he can't blow up the tower. He has to give Caesar more time. Koba calls Caesar weak, and Caesar drops the fucking return of the century.
Koba, weaker.
The final battle between Koba and Caesar coincides with the battle between Malcolm and Dreyfus. I love the fight between Koba and Caesar because they're just picking up hunks of metal and slinging them at each other. Oh my god, now they're swinging on chains. Holy shit, this is so cool. Dreyfus mentions that they made contact with a military base up north. This will come into play in the next movie. Dreyfus blows up the building and all hell breaks loose. Apes swinging and falling and dying. After the blast, Caesar gets up and starts helping the apes around him, while Koba just lets them die. Koba starts shooting at Caesar and a bunch of apes, killing a few, when Caesar turns around and hits him with his own Superman slam from the top ropes. Koba is now hanging from a ledge, preaching Caesar's ape doctrine right back at him when he says, "Ape, not kill ape." Caesar pulls him up only to say this:
You are not ape.
And then drops Koba to his death. The apes are in disarray, but Caesar has saved his people from war. For now. Overall, I feel like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes has a lot to do with there are bad leaders wherever you go. Even people you trust the most can turn on their people for power. This movie also just rocks. Like, bottom line, it's so good. A lot of people have this movie as their favorite Apes movie, but for me, it's a little lower down. And that doesn't have to do with the quality of this movie, it has to do with the quality of the others for me, and I just find myself so engaged with the others. This really establishes what most people my age think of when they think of Planet of the Apes as a franchise. And wow, is it a far cry from the originals of the 70s. As I get to this point in the series, I find myself reflecting a lot more on the history of Planet of the Apes. The franchise has changed and adapted so many times over the years with the differences in filmmaking and the climate of the industry every time a new installment is released. I find it very inspiring that these movies are able to reinvent themselves over and over and still pull an audience to some degree. I love Dawn, I love Caesar, I love Gary Oldman. Next time.
Today we will delve into a story that comes from the Bible and grafted onto a civilization of apes, and their leader embarking on an Old Testament journey to save his people. War of the Planet of the Apes is my favorite Planet of the Apes film. This movie captures so many different eras of filmmaking and blends them together wonderfully. I think it's the best that the motion capture has ever looked, and I think that the scope of the story is perfect for Planet of the Apes. Caesar literally becomes a biblical figure in this movie that will live on in history far longer than his ape earthly body will. War of the Planet of the Apes is the best Planet of the Apes film. We open with title cards that bring this trilogy together by using the words in the titles to cleverly describe the different scenarios recapping the other movies. This movie is definitively set 15 years after Rise, but I'm not really sure how long after Dawn because they say 2 years, but I saw a bunch of sweaty nerds arguing about it over the internet, so I'm really not sure. The first real image we see in this movie is a team of Black Ops Army guys going through the woods with words engraved on their helmet, one of them saying Monkey Killer. They've come into contact with some apes. And we see traitors to the ape cause? Those who don't back Caesar after the events of Dawn have gone to the human side and started to fight against the apes. They're working together to destroy Caesar's kingdom. This movie sets its tone instantly with a huge battle between apes and humans, and other apes, really living up to that title War for the Planet of the Apes at this point. One ape escapes the battle on horseback and rides off. This shit is incredible, man. This whole video is going to be me gushing about War for the Planet of the Apes, just letting you know now. The scale is ridiculous. Yet again, this movie is directed by Matt Reeves. Something in the way. I think he really doubles down for his take on the ape franchise, and really leans into the aspects of Dawn that were fresh and new that we hadn't seen before. We're seeing this tried and true battle of apes and humans, but he adds one wrinkle of apes being on both sides this time. The apes resurge against his Black Ops team and drive them off with reinforcements. One human gets a radio and calls back to the Colonel. We'll be introduced to him soon. He is a big player in this movie. The apes overwhelm the humans and stave off the battle. Use the word stave, that was pretty crazy, huh? POV, you're the king of Ape City, walking through your kingdom. Whoa, Caesar is so much more, like, grizzled and aged in this movie than I remembered. The motion capture just looks so good. Chef's kiss. They've captured the humans from the battle to interrogate them. Maurice! One of the humans who has been captured recognizes Caesar as the great leader of the apes. We learn that the apes working with the humans are active Koba sympathizers. So let me do some table setting. It feels like we're already flying over the Bermuda Triangle of lore and it's just started. First off, these soldiers are the military camp that Dreyfus called at the end of Dawn, making this a direct continuation from Dawn. They all have these Alpha Omega brandings on their head, which is a nice nod to Beneath the Planet of the Apes, because they had the Alpha Omega bomb with the same insignia on the side. These apes have decided they don't want to fight for Caesar, they'd rather fight with the humans for an ability to survive in this new world. But yes, this is the military that was called at the end of Dawn, and we're dropped right into the action 2 years later. Caesar is being hunted by this military, but he's trying to protect the apes that he has left. Caesar decides to let the humans go, but this time he gives them a message, the same one he gave the humans in Dawn. The woods are for the apes. This movie is gorgeously shot, by the way. It looks like this the whole time. Caesar talks to Maurice about how Koba still haunts them even after his death, and we will see that recurring throughout this movie. Caesar has visions of Koba, and the weight of the guilt of killing him is constantly hanging over his head, and he feels like he can't save everyone because he didn't save Koba. This Caesar is so weighed down now by the guilt of killing Koba, as well as the responsibility of looking after the rest of the apes after Dawn. He's tired. I love the perspective of this story that centers around Caesar's search for a safe place for his people. He just wants to give the apes a safe place to live and grow, and cultivate that society we'll see in the original Planet of the Apes movie. Caesar's baby son from the last movie is still a baby, but we find out his name is Cornelius. Another nod to the original flicks, love it. Caesar's eldest son is now a scout for Caesar and the whole kingdom, and he has just returned from a trip with Rocket. Ooh, and he's got a little girlfriend. The eldest son reports back, sorry, I still don't know his name. I should look it up, but I haven't. His eldest son reports that on their journey, he and Rocket found a new place for them to call home. They just have to travel there. The ape doctrine of this movie is apes together strong, and in the night, another Black Ops team comes in and swoops into their waterfall, cave, cavern home. We find out that the Colonel is here. They report on the radio that King Kong is dead, which means Caesar has been killed. But funny enough, Caesar hears this on a radio, so he's obviously not dead. The Colonel and Caesar meet face to face. He didn't kill Caesar, but rather his wife and son. His family is dead. The Colonel escapes, and Caesar has lost his entire family, but he finds his youngest baby son hiding. The apes get ready to make an exodus to the promised land. You see what I'm saying? This is literally a biblical epic in scope. It's incredible. Caesar decides he is going to go and kill the Colonel, while the rest of their apes make their mass exodus out of the woods. The apes are without a leader, and Caesar is going in alone. He's got a fucking shotgun on a horse, man. This shit fucking rips. You can't tell me otherwise.
Oh, let's go. His boys from Rise come with him.
Rocket, Maurice, and the gorilla whose name escapes me at this time meet up with Caesar to help him take down the Colonel. Yet again, the post-apocalyptic sets and scenery in this movie are amazing. The apes find abandoned houses and run into a human who is hauling some logs. The human pulls a gun, but then Caesar promptly fills him with lead. This shot of like the ape squad busting through the door with guns drawn is awesome. They walk into a room and find a child. Maurice shows kindness and sees that there's something wrong with the girl. He tells Caesar they need to take her with them, and they end up bringing her with them for the rest of this movie. They find like a human military encampment, and they also find the ape that sold them out and got Caesar's wife and son killed. The apes do like a stealth takedown, which rocks. I love that this movie is just like a revenge plot for Caesar for most of it, but he's justified and backed by his squad, so it doesn't even matter. They're just tearing shit up. Caesar has his first vision of Koba, and Koba says to him,
Ape. Not kill. Ape.
The apes have been given the information that the humans are meeting up at this human fortress in the snow, so they have to go make their way to there, thinking that the Colonel will be there. And they have now entered the beginning of Red Dead 2, seemingly. The apes come across, in the snow, a pile of humans that have obviously been killed by other humans. Something is afoot. One of them wakes up and they realize that he can't speak. The simian flu has mutated into this new strain that devolves humans and takes away their ability to critically think, and just strips them of their intelligence. The humans are killing off their own when they contract this new strain of the simian flu, because they're not sure if it's contagious and they want to stomp it out. We learn that the humans are going to the border to end all apes. Every encampment of humans is going to group up and exterminate the apes once and for all. Okay, so now it's time for a pause. We are now introduced to a character named Bad Ape. He is like really annoying. There's a little chase through the snow with him where he's revealed. He's just kind of like this small ape that joins the crew and is really like the comic relief for this movie. I understand that this movie is incredibly dour and like kind of bleak, but personally he's the biggest issue with this movie for me. Like sometimes I find him endearing like towards the end of the movie, but the section where he's introduced is kind of a snooze fest. I don't know, a lot of people really like him, so I guess he just doesn't connect for me. Bro up the pole. Bad Ape doesn't understand the sign language of Caesar's clan, and they realize that he's not part of their group, but he is from a different group of intelligent apes. He speaks English quite well, and Caesar and the crew learn his backstory. He's from a zoo, and he says that all the apes from that zoo are dead. This leads to a whole nother question of like, how many apes in the world actually contracted intelligence, and did it have to do specifically with ALZ 112 or 113, or was it more based in the simian flu and the spread of that? Bad Ape says he found a human zoo where there are huge walls. This is where the Caesar squad has to go. Look at this dumbass in his stupid little vest. The apes find their way to a fortress which is nestled between two snowy mountains. They're ambushed while scouting, and the gorilla, whose name escapes me still at this moment, is stabbed by a bayonet. He dies in Caesar's arms, peacefully, knowing that he saved Caesar. The human girl cries and puts a flower in his ear that they picked during their journey. Luca. His name's Luca, which I feel like is a weird name for an ape in this movie, but it's Luca. Sorry, man. Rest in peace. Maurice tells Caesar that he's acting like Koba for trying to get revenge. Caesar tells them it was a mistake bringing them all along, and goes in alone to try and kill the colonel. Along this path he takes, we see apes strung up on crosses, essentially. He crests a cliff and sees the entirety of his ape civilization in a cage. Caesar frees one of the apes that was strung up on the crosses, but is still alive, and he tells Caesar that all of the apes were captured and taken back to this fortress. They have the apes in like a work camp. Yikes. Caesar is knocked out by a giant gorilla and taken into the fortress. He is brought face to face with the colonel, who is played by Woody Harrelson. One of the humans that Caesar let live in the beginning of the movie now has a crossbow trained on his temple. Caesar is thrown in a cage across from the rest of his people by himself. This is essentially where he becomes Moses from the Bible. His people seem to have lost faith that they'll ever be freed now that their fearless leader was penned up just like them. Caesar's baby son is in a cage and he asks himself, all of the apes are chained up by their feet and now witness as this militant force of humans marches and has a rally to their leader, the colonel. The national anthem plays as apes are whipped into submission and forced to work, building some kind of wall. This wall is not to keep the apes out, but rather keep any humans from getting in. The colonel is walling himself in so that the virus cannot spread and knock out some of his guys. That army from the north that they thought was meeting them at this fortress is actually coming to destroy this militant force. An old orangutan messes up in his work and starts getting whipped by one of the gorillas on the human side, Red Donkey. Caesar speaks up for the old ape and the rest of the apes start to revolt a little bit. Caesar is taken to the colonel and is made an example out of by being beaten for the old man. Caesar demands food and water for the apes, and the colonel shoots the old ape in the head. The apes get back to work. On the outside, the ape squad tries to find a way to help from outside the fortress. Caesar is literally strung up on a cross, I'm telling you. This is a biblical epic about an exodus to the promised land, I'm telling you. And I don't want to come off like some devout, religious person. I'm not, at all. I just am so fascinated that this movie was made. A biblical epic about monkeys is something I truly can't believe got through the studio system, onto a big screen, and became a blockbuster. We see that the colonel has the word history scrawled on his wall. His command post is truly like a psychotic little room. He's a maniac. Caesar confronts the colonel about killing his own men, and the colonel tells Caesar his main thesis. He wants to make sure that the human race is preserved, because the apes are getting more intelligent and the humans are devolving. He is a fearmonger who is full of that same fear he's feeding to other people in himself. He tells Caesar about the mutated disease and how it'll flip the natural order of apes and humans, which would in turn get us to the original Planet of the Apes. He talks about sacrificing his only son and shooting him in the head to put him out of his misery as he started to devolve. The colonel feels that he is a righteous killer that is saving humanity, when in reality he's just slaughtering his own. He calls the battle between him and the other humans a holy war and the culmination of all human civilization, and that it stops right here depending on who wins. Bad Ape stumbles into a tunnel that leads under the fortress, and the ape squad decides they're going to use this to help from the outside. Caesar's standing up to get food and water for the apes actually works, and they are given food and water to start the day. Red Donkey, the big gorilla that works with the humans, decides to give Caesar a drink, but in turn just pours the entire bucket of freezing water on him in the snow. Meanwhile, the ape squad is underneath in the tunnels trying to see if they can find a way to help Caesar. There's really funny graffiti that says "Apocalypse Now," and I'm just thinking, why are they relating it to a movie at this point? Civilization is so far gone that I feel like a movie about Vietnam has nothing to do with this, but I think it's funny. Caesar has another hallucination of Koba, and Koba tells him this.
Apes all die here.
The colonel takes him off this faux crucifix and tells them to put Caesar back to work. The human girl has now gone into the fortress. Quite easily, I'll add. She just kind of waltzes in and no one stops her. And she walks up to the apes, which I feel like are their greatest asset, and no one really bats an eye. She gives Caesar a doll that she's been carrying with her the entire journey and brings him some water. The other apes call the girl over and give her some food to give to Caesar. The people stand behind their leader. Apes together strong. He has to save them. Rocket sacrifices himself so that the little girl can get away, but instead of killing him, the colonel interrogates him about other apes outside the facility and throws him in a cage. This red gorilla's a real dick, man. Just beating the shit out of him. He's like the colonel's main right-hand ape. He's like the enforcer. Rocket tells Caesar he has an escape plan. The rallies of this militant group of humans are insane. Really striking imagery if you catch my drift. The colonel finds the doll that the girl gave Caesar laying in the cage, and Caesar is sent to the quarry. He's giving signals to Maurice from outside the fortress. God, I love Maurice. It's time for an ape escape. Maurice and Bad Ape are going to use the tunnels to pull the apes from underground into the tunnels to get out. Maurice gives the human girl the name Nova. Let's go, originals mentioned. But we see water start to leak through the tunnels. Bad Ape digs from underneath the cage, sticking his head out in this silly little shot. But Maurice sees the water seeping into the tunnels and pulls him back down. The children are in a different cage and they realize if they go that way, they'll flood the entire tunnel system, leaving them stranded. They're going to have to get the children out from above ground. Guys, I am not even kidding. We are 9 movies in, and this is the first time there is a poop slinging scene in a franchise about monkeys. I find that astounding. Finally, we've made it to peak monkey comedy. This is their distraction. This shit is vile. Oh my god. They pull a soldier into the tunnels and take his keys and his gun. The plan is in motion. Caesar and Rocket make their way to the children, and Caesar is finally reunited with his son. They transfer the babies into the main cage, and they're all going to escape together. Caesar admits that he is just like Koba, and all he needs to do is kill the colonel. He is filled with hate. He's having all the apes leave without him. The human war starts. Helicopters are sending missiles in from above. The fortress is shooting missiles at those helicopters, and forces are coming. It's time for the war to begin. The humans can't find the colonel. He's nowhere to be found, but Caesar is gonna go find him and kill him. Caesar makes it to his quarters and finds it in disarray, and he finds the colonel drunk in bed, covered in blood. Caesar picks up his gun, but he realizes that the colonel has devolved and cannot speak. The doll he found earlier had the disease on it from the little girl, and he was infected. He pulls the gun closer to his head. He wants Caesar to shoot and kill him. He became the very thing he was so afraid of. Caesar decides not to kill the colonel and not become Koba. He will be a better man. Sorry, I had to get one of those in these videos. The colonel grabs the gun and shoots himself. A war is raging outside, and the red gorilla finally sees his fate. He's gonna die alongside these humans that don't care about him. The humans see the apes escaping through the tunnels and start to shoot them. Caesar sees a gas tank and knows what he has to do. He grabs a belt of grenades and cascades down the fortress on a burning American flag. The red gorilla sees his people being slaughtered, and Caesar is shot by an arrow by the same human he let live in the beginning of the movie. The red gorilla absolutely pastes this human and sends a grenade right at his feet. He has saved Caesar, but he is promptly executed by the humans above. He made a turn to save his people in the end, and I love that. Caesar launches a grenade at the oil tank and blows up the entire fortress. This shot is fucking crazy. Caesar quickly slides into the tunnels before the entire fortress is capsized. Caesar looks up at the mountain and sees an avalanche forming at the top, while the humans cheer on in their victory. The entire fortress and all of the humans are destroyed by this insanely avalanche-prone architecture, and Caesar sees all the rest of the apes in the trees avoiding the avalanche. He has saved his people and led them out of captivity. And now we see the apes venture to their promised land. They finally arrive at their new home, and Caesar, with Maurice, look over the apes. Caesar is still mortally injured by that crossbow shot, and he tells Maurice that they are all home now and they'll be okay with or without him. Maurice crying, no, don't fucking do that to me. Maurice tells Caesar that his son will know who his father was and what he did for all the apes. Man, they've come a long way from that animal shelter in San Francisco. Caesar looks on his apes and lets out a big sigh. His work is done. Caesar passes on, and the apes will live on to go through the adventures of Planet of the Apes, 1969. Overall, I feel that War for the Planet of the Apes is almost perfect as a Planet of the Apes movie. It encapsulates so much of what I love about these movies. Caesar's character arc being fully realized and finished brings a tear to my eye every single time. He finally established a place where apes could live on and be safe and cultivate a civilization. I love that the location at the end pretty heavily resembles the Ape City from the original movies. I love Maurice, and I love that he's a core part of this movie and that he's not relegated to a background player. And this movie has such a vibe of like community and the people around you. And now why I think it's a biblical epic? Because it is. I don't know. It's literally the book of Exodus from the Bible. It's Moses freeing his people from Egypt and bringing them to the promised land. The way this movie feels is akin to like a Ben-Hur or one of those old 4-hour epics set in the biblical time period. I think it's astounding that they can make a movie like this and that it does so well in theaters. I love this movie so much, and it, again, is my favorite Planet of the Apes film. It's just amazing. This brings us to the end of like the main trilogy people think of, Planet of the Apes, but we have one more movie. Next time.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is the newest installment in the Ape franchise, coming out, last year. I actually started watching these movies last year, early 2024, in preparation for making these videos. It took me a little longer than I'd like, but we made them eventually. All this to say, I was pleasantly surprised when a trailer dropped for a brand new installment in the franchise I was actively working through. I saw middling reviews, but then the movie started. The movie opens with a funeral for Caesar, led by Maurice! Also, let me just say, this was my girlfriend's first Planet of the Apes movie
at all. I bet this felt like a bad acid trip watching a religious monkey figure be cremated on screen to start the movie. We get a title drop and some awesome horns, and we get another card that says many generations later. We are dropped into an entirely new world. The apes have spread out in different communities and tribes throughout the entire globe, and humans hardly exist to compromise their peace. The beginning of this movie centers around the Eagle Clan, which fucking rocks, by the way. I want to be one of them. Caca! We see 3 young apes on a mission to find an egg. The egg will eventually hatch and become an eagle that will be like their familiar, essentially. The Eagle Clan lives amongst the birds, which is instantly an amazing world-building moment. It shows that the apes are different based on where they live and what tribe they're part of. The society being built upon the relationship between apes and birds is something I did not expect going into this movie. But I think it is so cool. The 3 young apes are Noah, Suna, and Anaya, with Noah being our main character. They only find 2 of the 3 eggs they need for each of them to have an eagle at the ceremony tomorrow, so Noah has to go on a bit of a perilous hike to find another one. He finds a nest, reaches for an egg, and an eagle swoops in and attacks him. But he snatches the egg and he makes it out alright. Noah notices that a blanket is missing and they hear a rustle in the woods. Suna casts the first stone, and the entity scurries off with the apes right behind him. The apes come to a train track which leads into a tunnel where they find the blanket hanging. They are obviously scared of this tunnel and what lies on the other side, and are not permitted to go through. They say that echoes only come through that tunnel. The apes now go back to what I will deem as the new Ape City. A guy calls an eagle to his fucking arm. Holy shit, dude. This showcase of the new ape world really solidifies that this is a new take on the franchise, beyond that of the Matt Reeves movies. We do see the effects of Caesar in this movie, but we will get to that a bit later. Noah's father is a guy they like to call the master of the birds. He has a conversation with his dad, they find the blanket, they figure out that they've seen an echo, whatever. Also, echoes are humans. I'm just gonna lay it out here. It's a bit of a reveal in the movie, but we all know what they're gonna be. It's humans. They call them echoes because they're an echo of a dead civilization. Look at that. Smart guy. Thinking. So tomorrow is bonding day, the day in which a young ape from the Eagle Clan will bond with the egg that he has found and eventually live on to be partners with that eagle forever, fighting crime, Batman and Robin style. Again, just gonna keep saying it, the birds are the coolest thing in the world. If I could have a falcon on my arm at all times, I would. Late in the night, Noah sees an echo in their food hut. She scurries away into the woods, but not before breaking Noah's egg by pushing him away. And he has to go off into the night and find a new egg before sunrise and before bonding day. He near instantly runs into perilous danger. Noah finds the apes they sent out to find the echo murdered. Now you'd think this was a human being's doing, right? You are wrong. This is set post-humans, dummy. This is all ape conflict. For now. Noah watches from the bushes as a group of militant apes make their way towards his home. These apes have like electric stabs that work like tasers. Kind of fucking rad. 1 world building point. Ding! I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing that, but, you know. You guys like that I'm adding a thing at the end of this series of movies? Isn't that cool? Noah hurries back home to find a plume of smoke.
Turn on the TV, they hit the Pentagon!
Seeing warring factions of apes feels really wrong, like in a post-Caesar world. Like they should all be living in harmony after what he did for all of them. But that is the point of the movie, so there you go.
For Caesar!
Wait, what did he just say? For Caesar? What? This is not the work of Caesar. This is not what he lived for. Noah finds his father, the master of the birds, obviously, and helps him free all the birds. The taser staffs are so cool. Like, they keep coming back. They're really sick. Noah tries to step in and save his father from this guerrilla general that's from the other warring faction, but they use fucking physics and metal conduction electricity theory to shock Noah off this metal pole. Oh, sorry. Noah's father is murdered and brutalized. Jesus Christ. Noah is sent plummeting to the ground in the name of Caesar. Yes, we won't get to that for a bit, but the Caesar they're referencing is not the Caesar from old movies, but rather a new character named Proximus Caesar, who is the villain of this movie. We'll talk more about him later. Noah wakes up the next morning and does what any good hero does, buries his dead family, vows to save his people, and starts off on his heroic journey. It's really cool that their tree forts were built out of like the basis of like electrical towers and like cell towers. That's really cool. +1 world building point. Ding! I don't know how many times I'm going to do that. I put it in the script. I don't know how many times I'm going to do it. Noah heads into the tunnel he was afraid of at the beginning of the movie, comes out on the other side, finding a ruined human city. The VFX in this movie are incredible again. Shout out to Weta Digital. The studio is actually so confident in this movie looking great that they released a cut on the physical version where none of the apes are CGI'd, it's just people in the little suits with ping pong balls, which is really funny. I need to watch that version. But yeah, as you've seen, every single movie through this entire franchise has looked better and better each time, and this movie is a standout. It looks incredible. Should've won the Oscar. Noah is trying to get one of the birds from his village that survived to be his like lackey, and the bird isn't biting. He doesn't want any part of that. Well, I guess he is biting. He's biting the fuck out of Noah. He don't fuck with him. Noah smells some smoke and goes up on a hill to check it out. Oh, he fell into a trap. Fool. Now we meet arguably my favorite character in the entire franchise, Raka. Raka is a religious follower of the texts of Caesar. He is the polar opposite of the militant force earlier in the movie, and knows that Caesar was a good ape that would not warmonger. The whole aspect of this movie that, like, Caesar has different descendants that, like, follow his footsteps differently is so interesting. Like, the whole commentary on religion is really cool. +1 world building point. Sorry I keep doing that. That's just one of the main reasons I love this movie, is that it built an entirely new world for the apes to play in. Raka has a bunch of books. I don't even know what I'd call, like, his analog in the modern day. He's just kind of like a biblical disciple of Caesar. Raka explains to Noah, like, who Caesar is, and a lot of the stuff we've gone over in the previous movies, like Ape Not Kill Ape, Ape Together Strong, all these, like, textual documents that Caesar left behind. Raka also explains that echoes are humans, and he also decides he's gonna join Noah on his journey with no invite, really. He just kind of wants to go. Just kidding. I love him. He can do what he wants. This movie very much feels like a video game in the way that Noah has a tragic event happen, he has to leave his home for the first time, and he meets a cast of colorful characters, and encounters, like, new quests to go on throughout the entire journey. I know that's silly because it's literally every adventure movie, but it really stuck out to me in this one that it felt like a video game. Loot Get. The human has been following Noah since his village was burned down, and Raka likes the humans because Caesar liked the humans, so letting him come. So Raka throws her some food and is nice to her. Raka names her Nova, and he says that all humans are named Nova, but he doesn't really get why. It's just that Caesar named that one girl Nova in the movie in War, so I guess that's stuck as all humans are Nova. That's kind of funny. Which means he is reading Maurice's writings because Maurice was the one who named Nova in War, so that means +1. No, sorry, I said I'd stop. I'll be done. They start to have suspicions that this human is intelligent. Spoiler, she is. Raka is a real yapper. I could listen to him talk for hours. I love him. The apes run into a pod of zebras at the watering hole, which is so cool because it means that, like, animals are living in new habitats because there's no zoos and they can just live wherever they want. It's kind of sick. Realistically, I don't know if zoo animals could live, like, out on their own in the wild, but, you know, it's a cool visual. They see a group of humans emerge at the watering hole and go to drink water with the animals, and it makes Nova very emotional. Raka decides to stay with the humans and gives Noah his necklace, which is Caesar's window. I told you it'd be important videos ago. I told you that Caesar's window would be important forever, and it is. It's on his necklace, and he gave it to him. Raka looks naked without the necklace. What the fuck? As soon as Noah leaves, they all hear a horn, and the militant group of apes is storming the watering hole. Raka's departure from Noah is short-lived, and the gang is back together again. Mere moments later. Monkey Nut is back! Let's fucking go! Nova is being pursued by the militant apes, and Raka and Noah need to save her. Raka uproots a dead tree like a fucking beast and goes to help her. Then Nova stands up and screams, "No!" Noah grabs Nova. Man, I hope they change her name soon. It's really confusing. And they fight a few apes with the help of Raka to get away. Nova explains that there are more humans like her who are intelligent, and she's trying to find them. Oh, thank God, and she also reveals her name is May, so we don't have to get our wires crossed anymore. It's May. The crew find themselves at a bridge, but they're ambushed instantly by apes underneath the bridge that are climbing, ready to trap them. May falls into the water, and Raka goes in to save her. No! Fuck, Raka, no, come back! In his final moments, he says, "Together. Strong." I'll be honest, the movie loses a little bit of juice for me when Raka leaves. He's great, and when he's not on screen, it's definitely noticeable. Noah and May are taken back to Proximus Caesar. Their base is this giant rusted ship that looks so fucking awesome. They separate Noah and May, and Noah is embraced as a new citizen of this civilization. Okay, little sidebar to explain the new ape city we're seeing here. Proximus Caesar's base is like a bunch of wooden walls surrounding this fortress on a beach, and that will be the new main goal of this movie. But the beach is completely cleared for work. There's like one rusted boat on one side, and then the wood walls, and then the cement structure on the inside. A nice unique setting for the apes. Noah is reunited with Suna, and May is taken to a different room with William H. Macy. What the hell? Hey man, what's up, man? He makes all the tech that the apes use to win the war, so like the taser spears, which is cool. He also reads ancient books to Proximus Caesar and sort of instills with him the knowledge of old human rulers. His name is Trevithan. That's a stupid name. I'm gonna call him William H. Macy. May says she is the human that is not helping the apes. She is on a covert mission. Noah finds his mother. Proximus Caesar gives maybe the best speech in cinema history to his ape citizens here. This is my favorite gift to like send to all my friends when I do one productive thing. Proximus explains that he is the new leader of the apes, and he is the new Caesar. He wants to break into the fortress to find the treasure that is inside. He uses the phrase ape together strong as this skewed parable to force the apes to work in this like camp he has going on just for his own glory. He is twisting Caesar's words into evil, which is such a cool idea. This movie really harnesses the power of myth
and how things can be misconstrued and passed down incorrectly and taken completely different directions. It touches on religion in a way. I think that's cool. He is a false prophet of Caesar. William H. Macy has decided he's just gonna side with the apes for his own safety rather than try to fight for the humans. He explains that it's easier to just work for them than fight for revolution. Proximus explains to Noah and May that he's trying to get into this vault so that he can become a great ruler of the apes and unify all apes under his rule, which is a dictator. Bad. But he has to destroy all humans, lest they ever rise up again and put apes in cages again. They should put a monkey in jeans in this one. Give him jeans. The eagle finally accepts Noah. Let's go. I'm so jealous. Noah confronts May, and May explains that what is inside the vault is the key to all of human existence. She also explains to Noah the plot of the last 3 movies. Noah asks if water will destroy what is inside. He has a plan. Noah and his old friends work together to get inside the vault. William H. Macy catches them trying to blow up the wall. May attacks and then kills him. Damn. Bye, William H. Macy. The apes and Meg climb to the top of this fortress and make it in through an air vent at the top. This movie is sort of like Seven, where it doesn't really matter what's in the box at the end. It's sort of the struggle between the two groups that get to the end that is the main point. It's the implied nature of the vault. It is the implication. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's full of military equipment and stuff that either side could just destroy the other side with. Noah finds a book that shows apes in cages at zoos. They open the door ready to flood the entire fortress when Proximus Caesar stands at the front. They tase Noah and make him choose between May or Suna. May lets off the first gunshot in this movie that, like, you don't realize it is really impactful by this point in the movie. I don't know why. It was like a gun going off. She has killed an ape. The era of relative peace between humans and apes is over. The cycle repeats itself. May runs outside and quickly blows up the wall. Water starts flowing in and all the apes have to climb the fortress as fast as they can. The scene of the water like separating all the apes and all of them trying to get to the top is like really intense. Noah takes charge of the Eagle clan, stands up and leads them to the top of the fortress. This is like a video game level. It's awesome. See what I meant earlier? Noah is being chased by a gorilla, but he leads him to like this very small corridor where he gets stuck and then drowns, which is kind of brutal. Cold as fuck, Noah. He makes it to the air vents where they climbed into the fortress the first time, and there stands the entire Eagle clan on this cliff. Proximus jumps from the crowd and ambushes Noah, beating the hell out of him. Proximus Caesar is an incredible villain, by the way. Love him. His presence on screen is so captivating, and he also postures himself as a really interesting villain in the ape mythology. He is a brutal leader, but he is trying to lead the apes. He's misinterpreting Caesar's quotes and old history and bending them to his will so that he can become powerful. As Noah lays bloody and beaten on the side of this cliff, Proximus thinks he has won, but then Noah calls all the eagles from the Eagle clan to rip him to shreds and knock him off the cliff. He harnessed the power of the fowl. I cast the rune of 1 trillion birds. With Proximus dead, Noah leads the Eagle clan home to rebuild. He meets with May and she says goodbye as she goes to find more humans like her. Noah has now restarted the Eagle clan to live under the teachings of Caesar, as Rocco would have liked, and then he confronts May on whether he believes that apes should go back to being silent and in cages. They do not see eye to eye. He takes off the Caesar necklace from Rocco and gives it to May. He says it's important. The Eagle clan is now set up to thrive. May visits a human fort where there are more like her quarantined off in this facility. The cycle of the Planet of the Apes franchise is back in motion, and humans and apes are warring for being the top dog on Earth. May drops off some sort of like hard drive or SAT chip to the fortress, but she cannot go in because she's been in contact with the apes. This was a one-way trip for her. The humans can now contact each other. Funny Easter egg, the other base that they get in contact with says they're from Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is where Taylor is from in the first movie. And with that, we conclude all of the Planet of the Apes movies so far. This movie feels very similar to me making these videos in a way. It moves and reacts within the framework of Planet of the Apes, the franchise, almost analyzing where we've come from and why we even still make Planet of the Apes movies in 2024. We enter a fresh world, but just like any reboot, there has to be references, and this movie is inextricably tied to Matt Reeves' trilogy, or duology, I guess. Apes as a franchise is what? It's a director using the framework of an ape society as a mirror for our own society, and grafting what they have to say about that onto the apes. This movie removes us from that a little bit and puts us within the lore of the apes. It has the least amount of ties to like real world politics and more just mythology and religion. Proximus Caesar is like kind of an analog for like world leaders, but I feel like it's really not heavy-handed in any way. I feel like the main crux of this story is the legacy of Caesar, which is funny because I like this movie a lot even though it doesn't adhere to what I normally like about the Planet of the Apes franchise. Usually there's a specific topic or hot button issue that is discussed within the framework of the Apes movies, but this one is really just like, why are we the way we are? And why are the people before us influential to who we are now? But this one also may just be not specific or political because it is now a Disney property. I don't know. But the corrupt leader trope is not groundbreaking by any means. I mean, we saw Mickey 17 earlier this year. Like, people are still doing that all the time. This movie comes off as a legacy sequel in the most direct way, and
in a good way. It is literally a legacy sequel that follows the reverberations of Caesar's life and how it impacts the world around him. Planet of the Apes as a franchise has a lot of ups and downs. It has been reshaped and reformatted to fit within the blockbuster framework for nearly half a century now. They reinvent and kind of truly live on an island by themselves when it comes to IP and large franchises in these days. There aren't really any spin-offs other than like the cartoon show from a long time ago and the TV show that was live action from the 70s that only had one season. It hasn't been Disney Plusified, which I think lends to its staying power and why it does so well in theaters every time it drops. And now that we've covered every single movie in the franchise, I want to know why. I think that these movies are successful because they bend to the whim of filmmaking. In the 60s and 70s, they were adventure movies. In the 2010s, they were action movies. And in 2000, Mark Wahlberg was in one. Ape movies are amorphous. They can really be whatever you want them to be. If you want a dumb action movie about a bunch of monkeys with LMGs fighting each other, you got it. If you want a more in-depth reflection of human society and how violence and weaponry affects us on the whole, you got it. And if you want to see Mark Wahlberg kiss a humanoid ape, you fucking got that too, I guess. Planet of the Apes is a franchise that I know means a lot to my dad, which part of the reason I even started this. He always enjoyed and talked about them and even took me to see War in theaters, which, albeit I didn't remember. Watching through all these, I got to call him each time I finished one and see what he thought about it. And this is what Planet of the Apes is for me. It transcends generations. It now has 2 iterations that are just as important as each other in the oeuvre of film and pop culture. Looking back on watching these movies, I'm incredibly grateful that some of them were incredibly good and some of them were really bad, because it really shows the commitment to the vision of what they had for Planet of the Apes and the framework that they can use for literally anything. I love Planet of the Apes and I'm so happy I got to talk about them for all these videos. Thank you for tuning in. These videos have done incredibly well compared to what I thought they would do, so thank you for sticking around and watching them, and I hope you enjoyed watching all of these with me. Thank you for watching, giving me a shot, even if you didn't like me or what I had to say. Thanks for tuning in. This has been super fun, and I want to tell you all the plan moving forward. The next franchise we are going to cover is... See you all next time. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, comment, tell me what you think. If you didn't like it, let me know why, I guess. Maybe don't. That would hurt my feelings a bit. My Patreon is up. That's where I put these videos up a day early. And starting with Indiana Jones, I'm going to be uploading movie commentaries to the 2nd tier. So if you want to watch the movie along with me, it'll be over there. But I hope you all have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
Who are these people?